Penetrated the shield and landed on Andor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Boy, this is really getting to be a habit with us. It's a great habit to have. Welcome back to another Rebel Force Radio live stream event. This is going to wrap up our live streams looking at Star Wars Celebration in London. If you were with us on Friday, you know, we covered the 3 big film announcements. We looked at the officially released Ahsoka trailer. We talked to our buddies Kyle Newman and FJ DeSanto, and then that was about it. That's all we had time for in that 3 hours. So we are back for more. We've got big reveals, more from Ahsoka. We've got news about Skeleton Crew, Andor Season 2, The Acolyte, Bad Batch. It's all coming your way. Plus, of course, we'll be monitoring the chat and taking your phone calls in just a little bit, but we're going to set the table with the whole slew of topics and news. And when I say we, I mean, of course, me. If you're new to the program, my name's Jason, and with me, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Happy to be back for a recap. I mean, my God, did we have a lot to sink our teeth into? Did you say
nightcap?
A nightcap?
I thought you said nightcap. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, cheers to you, my friend.
All right.
I got the my famous Yoda mug.
Mm.
Yeah. There ain't coffee in this bad boy.
It's always good to disguise it in a coffee mug, you know. You gotta do.
Yeah,
be
there's just
responsible
something
drinking coffee.
Yeah, you know. But hey, we're not putting up any walls around here. It's as authentic as it gets here on Rebel Force Radio, and we're glad we have you listening to our show or watching the show as it may be. If you're checking us out live, you guys are like the most authentic Star Wars audience there is. You don't know how many requests I get from social media users to put a muzzle on y'all, but I won't do it. No, everyone gets a say. And as long as everyone's civil, as long as there's, no hate speech or nothing like that. I mean, we're talking about fiction here, and I think everyone should get it off their chest if their disappointment is impossible to mask, or if they're so overjoyed, they're bursting at the seams. And that is 95% of the case, overjoyment. My cup is overflowing with Star Wars this week. And I still feel like I am way behind on the Star Wars Celebration coverage, even though it's been wall-to-wall viewing and reading things online, looking at reports, looking at photos, checking out interviews. It's wow, so exciting. And I like doing it from the comfort of my own sofa. So thank you for the live stream. Thank you for everyone.
The live stream was really great. I really appreciated it.
Fantastic. Yes.
We make jokes here and there, but that's some of those streams were, close to 7 hours, wall to wall, nonstop. And we know a little bit of what that's like. Now, granted, they have a whole production crew and they can switch on and off, take bathroom breaks. Mac, you and I can't even take bathroom breaks.
No,
we're doing
they don't
shows.
even give us a producer or any sort of help whatsoever.
Oh, no,
the RFR guys,
yeah, right.
to show the RFR guys up on stage and watch it all unravel. But I'll tell you what, me and Jason did it without those index cards, which seems like a crutch for some of the hosts. I think maybe with a little more experience under their belt, they'll get a little more comfortable, because some of those guys doing interviews, they have grade A Star Wars pedigrees. They know what they're talking about. And I really enjoyed the hosts across the board.
I did too.
This year's Star Wars Celebration live stream. So kudos.
Yeah, they did a great job, and they brought the convention. They didn't leave us behind, and I certainly appreciated that. But, something else that doesn't leave you behind, if you are a member, and that is, of course, Rebel Force Radio on Patreon. So just want to give a little plug here. So please do support us. Jim, you talked about the folks that, on social media, and a lot of the ones that you hear on our live streams, our callers, the folks in the chat, they are not all, but they are largely Patreon members. And so it just gives you an idea of the type of folks and Star Wars fans that you're going to be hanging out with when you are a member of the Rebel Force Radio community on Patreon. In addition to get to hanging out with all those cool people, you also get exclusive podcasts like RFR Q&A, the Babu Freaks, RFR RPG, ad-free versions of the audio podcast, full show video. So that's right. Those of you who have been tuning into a lot of our live streams, you may be interested in knowing that we do have full show video of the weekly Rebel Force Radio podcast, which is coming back very soon. But we had to take a little hiatus because of all these after shows and convention coverage. We haven't taken any time off, but just the regular weekly flagship Rebel Force Radio podcast has taken a little bit of a breather. That's going to be coming back very shortly. Plus things like early bird releases. And when we do get together for live events, you can get in early. You can get some extra perks and hangouts and things like that. So do check it out. Go to rebelforceradio.com and hit the Patreon banner, or go to patreon.com/rebelforceradio. All those details are there. You can check out the level that suits you and your budget best. And we promise you will definitely enjoy it and get lots of use from it.
Yeah, there's a variety of topics, Star Wars topics being discussed. Here on Rebel Force Radio, we're usually reacting to breaking news, or we're talking about the latest streaming show or latest film. And so it's very specific, very focused. But on these shows that we provide on Patreon, Q&A, RPG, Babu Freaks, etc., the topics can be from any era of Star Wars regarding any media that might be at play, from comics to novels to the classic films, the prequels, the sequels. Nothing is off limits when it comes to the content that we talk about on Patreon. So if you really want a variety of Star Wars conversation, that's the place to go. Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
All right, let's do it. Let's get into headlines. There was a lot of news.
Yes.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news.
Come closer, I have good news.
I have good news. Did you happen to catch the Neil Scanlon panel that they did?
I did. I enjoyed that very much.
I did too. That was what a cool interactive thing, actually taking somebody and putting them in the creature. But the part that blew me away was that Ian McDiarmid did a little cameo on stage playing the Emperor. And I thought, that's great for him to do that, because that wasn't necessarily it wasn't one of those big panels where you have, 12, 13 actors from a movie or something like that. I just thought it showed a real fun side to Ian McDiarmid. Yeah, I'll do it. Put me in a
sure,
cloak.
Well, those ILM guys have done so much to boost Ian's performance.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's only apropos he pay them back in just a little way. And I really did enjoy seeing those behind the scenes players from ILM get their due, because those guys are characters, man. There's some personalities in that crew. And Neil Scanlon in the gang, and there's geniuses in that crew too. Did you hear the guy describing how he developed the microcomputer motors for the masks to make them articulate? I mean, it was
they're maniacs. It's the same kind of crazy genius that, like you said, filled ILM back in the 70s. They were inventing this stuff as they were doing it. And that's what gave George the confidence going into the prequels that he's had all over these decades, which is, I don't care if you know how to do it now, you'll figure it out. You always do, and that's how it was with them and how it was later in the prequel era. But let's get to the headlines. Here's one. Bad Batch. We just wrapped up season 2. And Jim, one of the things that you and I were speculating is how long might this show go on? But it sounds like we got our answer during the Bad Batch panel. Did we? Did we want to say something about? Yeah, there it is. Did we want to say something about it, or we want to go right into the clip?
I thought we were going to have a clip. I thought we were going to get the clip, but I'll tell you what, it was an interesting panel to watch. Getting to know the voice behind Omega, that was kind of fun. I know there have been Bad Batch panels in the past, but I don't think I have really watched one with Michelle Ng, and she's fantastic. Jennifer Corbett's fantastic. What a great, and of course, the great DBB, D. Bradley Baker, friend of the show here at Rebel Force Radio. We hope to catch up with D sometime over the summer, maybe late spring even. But D's a very busy man, and he's prepping for Bad Batch season 3. So let's hear the announcement of the. They of course they waited till the very end of the panel before throwing that out there, but it seemed inevitable.
I can say that the story's not over.
Yeah, that's right. Boom!
And that the Bad Batch will be back for a 3rd and final season.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah,
Great.
3rd and final. They're not going to overstay. They're welcome. Jim, you and I were sort of speculating, and for some reason, to both of us, 3 seasons seemed right based on how the series is unfolded, and 3 seasons is what we're going to get. It's not that I don't enjoy the show, I really do, but I love the fact that they've got a defined ending point and they're going to stick to it. So I'm happy about that. And as we've also talked about, this has been a great series for world building. You could get other characters, you could have spin-offs. We never say goodbye, I think, in Star Wars with some of these characters, as these new shows have proven.
Well, I think 3 is a magic number in this case for the Bad Batch. And I think it could be a winning formula moving forward for all animated series. Model it after the Star Wars trilogy model. We know the films aren't going to go in that direction, but hey, why don't we just take the seasons and treat each one as if it's a standalone film? And I kind of get that vibe. I think that formula is already in play, because if you look at the end of Bad Batch season 2, you're left with a cliffhanger. You're left with one of our favorites, one of our protagonists being in the captivity of the bad guys, much like Han Solo was frozen in carbonite and taking the Jabba the Hutt. We have young Omega being obtained and jailed, essentially imprisoned on Mount Tantus, and she's still there, and so is Crosshair, of course. But we're left with the cliffhanger, and it almost feels natural then next season to resolve the story, and sure, leave some story threads open-ended so you can pick up on them in future animated series. But I love the 3-season model, and I had a feeling as this season was unfolding that 3 seasons would be the right amount of Bad Batch.
Yeah, I agree. But, we've seen these characters, particularly these Filoni created characters, reappear in subsequent series. And, there was a time where if you'd have said, hey, maybe you'll get a live action version of Hunter showing up or Omega showing up, I might have laughed. But I don't think that's off the table anymore at all. So it's all one big universe. And the nice thing about that is, just like we've said with episodes of the series, this week's episode might not be your favorite. There's always next week. There's always the next series. And there's always another character that's going to be introduced. So it may not be your favorite, but you can bet that it probably is someone's favorite.
You got it. I mean, for as derided as things like the Book of Boba Fett is, or the Rise of Skywalker, people think of me as kind of a harshly critical fan at times, but I embrace both of those 2 things, and most of fandom doesn't. So, there's no right or wrong, they can just keep swinging for the fences, and Whether or not the ball flies over, I guess it depends on where you're sitting in the stadium.
Right. Yes, for sure. All right. Now, Ahsoka. Wowie, wow. Ahsoka, we thought as of Friday that we were kind of done with talking about Ahsoka. They released a trailer, and that trailer was, well, it was released officially. Everybody was super excited about it. We were super excited about it. A lot of great reveals. And then they had an Ahsoka panel, and that changed everything. Of course, the very
unfortunate they didn't stream it, unfortunately, and that's kind of a bummer.
Someone in the chat was asking, where do I see the panels? Where do I see the panels? And most of them are within the full live stream archive. The interviews they're pulling out and throwing up on YouTube, but that Bad Batch panel, I believe, that was part of the full day's coverage. So you kind of have to scrub through.
And perhaps they'll take those things and set them aside too, so they're more accessible as individual videos. But also don't forget, there are other panels available outside of StarWars.com. For example, the full Hasbro panel is available via the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel. Or maybe
I didn't know that.
Hasbro. But yeah, I watched it the other day when he was complaining that every time they cheered, it disrupted her from her meditations.
Well, there's probably a lot of cheering. She's like, are they still cheering toys?
Well, by the way, Wendy was a big fan of the last episode of Mandalorian.
Oh,
big fan. And she's a casual fan, and she's a lover of pop culture, and she loves seeing Jack Black and Lizzo and that thing. But we had the most interesting conversation about that episode after she watched it. And man, I wish I recorded that conversation. It was so good and kind of helped get me off the ledge a little bit.
Okay.
So yeah. It's nice. I mean, people take this stuff in from different perspectives. We're going to always attack it as like Star Wars fans who've been there from the beginning. And yeah, we're grizzled curmudgeons. At least I am. I can't speak for Swank, but
I'm a curmudgeon. I don't know how grizzled I am yet. I'm all
it's Swank.
I'm getting there. Yeah. Well, okay. Okay. All right. We've got some folks in the chat saying, oh, I didn't see the extended trailer. Ooh. Did they show Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn? Well, I have it on pretty good authority that they did. So why don't we do it? It's just between us right here. We're not going to tell anybody. Like everybody out there, you hear me? We're not going to say anything. We're not going to go running around saying what you saw on Rebel Force Radio. So let's see what happens. Let's play it. What's the worst that could happen? Right?
As heir to the Empire.
Sabine with a green saber, blocking flames with
everything left.
Ahsoka outrunning Ezra from. Wow, it's all happening so fast.
Yeah, it's happening. I just thought we would play it all the way through, and then we can run it back.
We can explain. I'm always thinking about the people who are just listening.
Oh, the audio people. Yeah, the audio people. Yeah.
Go ahead and play it again. Let me see if I can do a play-by-play of this real quick.
All right. You don't want to take it scene by scene?
All right, we can. Yeah, let's just take it shot by shot. Why am I so jacked up tonight?
I don't know. But we see Grand Admiral Thrawn here.
Maybe that's it.
I think that's what it is. Grand Admiral Thrawn in the form of Lars Mikkelsen, very much the favorite amongst fans to play the character since he voiced him on Rebels, and to great impact and effect. It was a great characterization of this character that has been around since the 90s, introduced by Timothy Zahn. And Jim, they so cleverly refer to him as the heir to the Empire, and that's certainly no accident with the history of that character.
Awesome. But, in this particular shot, everybody's going to say I'm peeing in the Cheerios again, but he lacks a menacing quality. I think that's essential for Thrawn. I don't know if Lars Mikkelsen has that intimidating nature because I'm not familiar with him. But Thrawn always came off as kind of a, I don't know. Put that picture back on the screen. He looks like Mr. Data from Star Trek. That was the first thing I thought of. And I've seen a lot of people make similar comments online. But he looks kind of like Mr. Data. He doesn't have that. Like Thrawn always had like a furrowed brow. Like he was always like angry about something. And there was an intimidation factor to him. And I'm not picking it up on Lars.
We got
on first blush. I'm not saying this to poo-poo all over the project. I can't wait to see this show. And I can't wait. Now this shot puzzles me because it looks like somebody.
This has been messed with a little bit.
Yeah, they dumped it in Microsoft Paint and had some fun with it. I mean, really. That's what they're using.
Is that what the kids are using these days?
That's what they got, you know. I mean, if I could tell. but I mean, still, it does though provide a little bit more of a maybe a better look at him. But don't you get the Data vibes?
I definitely get the Data vibes. There's no question. I think it's the contrast between the eyes and the skin tone. I'm with you as far as no, he does. Does he jump out? Does he make me quake in my boots? Not really, but I don't know necessarily if that is what that character is supposed to do from a physical standpoint. I think that so much of it is in his delivery, his cold, calculating way. Now, this is the one thing that I will say, and this is probably not going to be a very popular opinion either, but if you go back and you listen to the Rebel Force Radio Rebels commentaries and the roundtables that we did, the declassified series, we got a little frustrated with Thrawn because if you remember, Dave Filoni addressed why Darth Vader was not in Rebels very often. And the answer was he didn't want Darth Vader to be that or to become that comical villain that was always shaking his fist to the heavens. You know, I'll get you next time, Rebels. And that makes all the sense in the world. You don't want Vader to be the Dr. Claw. This is an Inspector Gadget. We were talking a little Inspector Gadget before the show, so it's top of mind. So that's what Thrawn sort of became. Now, again, I'm not trying to, if you didn't watch a lot of Rebels, this could be a very different Thrawn. But that version of Thrawn from Rebels became a bit frustrating because no matter how many times he lost, he always had this sort of, yes, all according to plan. He's just always lulling them into a false sense of security, but he never won. And
it was never a case when he was surprised by anything. Grand Admiral Thrawn, oh my God, the rebels have escaped the prison. Just as I planned. I knew they would escape because they will lead us to their hideout. Grand Admiral Thrawn, the rebels that just escaped from the prison have blown up half the ship and half our crew is dead and floating in space. Casualties of war, of course. These are to be expected. They're nothing more than mere statistics. It's all part of the plan. But Grand Admiral Thrawn, the rebels that escaped the prison and blew up half the ship and killed half our crew, broke into your house and they're banging your mom. This is to be expected, of course. It's to be expected. And civilian casualties will be just part of the plan. Grand Admiral Thrawn.
All right. I think we get the point. But yes, he did.
Did you say they were banging my mom?
Okay. All right. Enough. Enough.
Not part of the plan.
All right.
That was unplanned.
Yes, that was not part of the plan, Grand Admiral Thrawn.
No, it is regrettable.
Yeah. Now,
and let's just leave it at that.
We do know that it's possible in live action that he could take on a much more menacing and more aggressive, let's say, tendencies, whatever. But what we saw of him in Rebels was a little bit too passive. And I remember hearing from a lot of big Thrawn fans, people that read every one of the books that included Grand Admiral Thrawn, and they were a little bit disappointed. And so I think that this is something we should walk in with some awareness, Jim, especially as you're making these observations about, his appearance. No, he does not seem to be necessarily the most menacing guy.
However, I've never seen him act in anything. I didn't watch House of Cards. I didn't watch Sherlock Holmes. People say he was menacing as hell in those films or shows or whatever. So I don't know. I'm just, this is first blush stuff, gang. I'm not setting this show up for failure. I can't wait for it. Can't wait to see live action Thrawn. I bought Heir to the Empire the day it came out. It became a New York Times bestseller because I read it so damn fast.
Oh, you caused that? That was you?
I was delivering pizzas at the time, and I had a 79 Monte Carlo. And I sat on the hood of that Monte Carlo in the back of the pizza place reading Heir to the Empire in the sunshine, waiting for the pizza orders to come in. And I read the whole book on the hood of that car. And it was so exciting, I actually left an indentation of my ass on the hood of the car by the end of the summer. So that was,
all because of Heir to the Empire.
Thrawn was just genius, though. I mean, what a genius character. And I was so sucked into that book. I must have read it 3-4 times that summer. No kidding. And I could hear the Star Wars soundtrack in my head as I was turning those pages. Thrawn was a formidable foe for the New Republic. And I hope he lives up to that potential in the Ahsoka series. And I think he will.
All right. So now we see Sabine. This was also something that we didn't see in the original release, the official release. This is Sabine holding up a lightsaber, and her wardrobe is kind of interesting. It's like sort of it's like a sweater, something. I don't know. It seems very. It doesn't seem very galaxy far away to me from here, but we'll see. But at any rate,
I think she has that thing at the end of the sleeves where you stick your thumb through the hole.
Oh, no, don't say that. No. She's not doing that, I hope. So she finds the lightsaber, and then we see her igniting it. Now, she did have some sword-wielding experience. It was Ezra, I believe it was Ezra, that was helping train her with her saber skills because of the dark saber. At the time,
Ezra and Kanan, actually, they both trained her. And here's a detail from the end of Rebels. I'm not 100% sure on, but if I remember correctly, didn't Ezra leave his saber behind to Sabine?
Isn't that Ezra's saber? Is this Ezra's saber?
That would be his second saber, because the first one he had was that staple gun that shot out little laser ping pong balls, and had a saber come up out of the, but it looked like a staple gun.
It did. It looked exactly like a staple gun. Absolutely. This was the second one.
Saber. Yeah, this is the second one. Does anybody in the chat know? Is that Ezra's saber? Am I remembering the end of Rebels correctly? See, Rebels is one of those things that never burned into my fandom soul.
Ryan is saying yes, he did. He did leave.
Yes, I thought so. So.
And Connor is backing him up.
Thanks,
too,
Connor.
So.
Thanks, guys. Awesome.
All right.
That's kind of a great power to have. It's just be really unsure of yourself, and then just say, "Hey, does anybody know?" And then all of a sudden, it just pops up on the screen.
I love being able to crowdsource our expertise here. All right.
Yes.
So we see the lightsaber ignite, and she's going up against. We don't have a name for this girl, do we?
Yes, we do.
We do have a name?
I have to look it up. If I haven't completely committed Star Wars Rebels to my fandom memory, I sure the heck can't remember the name of new characters introduced at a convention across the Atlantic. Who is the new Sith apprentice from Ahsoka? That's what I'm just typing in here.
Pris. Is it Pris? Pris?
Pris. I'm not finding it, but I'll take their word for it. That's Pris.
Well, according to Ben, I think that might be. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to say what they're responding to, but I think that's what Ben is answering here.
Yes,
Peter is saying it's Miley Cyrus Skywalker, but I think that's unconfirmed. Those reports are
from Lizzo to Miley. It's not a big stretch.
Oh, I love this one, Taylor Sith.
Oh, that's no. That is Shin Hati.
Oh, Shin.
Yeah, Hati, not Hottie. It's Shin Hati.
Somebody wrote Shim, and I thought, what? Wait, no. Shim?
That was a different convention. She is played by Ivana Scano.
I think it's
we'll know them. We'll know all this stuff by the time the show debuts. And she is an apprentice of Balin Skull, played by Ray Stevenson. He's the cat with the beard.
Right.
Dueling with Ahsoka.
Yes. Now,
be patient with us, folks. We're learning about all of this stuff in real time, just like you are. So, to come off as experts on this stuff already is that's just being phony and baloney. Right.
I have heard it mentioned by a couple of people that there's some thought out there that Shin could be a proxy character for Mara Jade, and that Balin could be a proxy character for Joruus C'baoth. And that it's by proxy, what I mean is that it's not exactly that character by name, but that some of the plots and circumstances around that character very well could be reminiscent of those. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, I mean, just to mention the title Heir of the Empire, it gives us a big clue that they are going to be cherry picking from the Thrawn trilogy. There's no doubt about it. So how are they going to execute all of this? Yeah, reinvent those characters? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they were going to do that. Why not just stick to the landing and make them the EU characters that have been established for the past, 30 years. But, Disney likes to remake everything in its own image and recreate things.
Well, for that matter, why did they go with Kylo Ren and not grab one of the Solo kids, from the novels?
Jason Solo.
Why not? Would have been fine.
I mean, it would have been fine. So again, it's a new company trying to claim ownership of something they didn't create by creating it in their own unique way, I guess. There's nothing wrong with that, but
it could have something to do with royalties. I don't know. I don't know what the legalese is, but we do know through guys like Alan Dean Foster that Disney does sometimes get the short arms when it comes to cutting those royalty checks, you might say. So it very well could be. I don't know all the legalities, but it's possible that maybe the rights to, not that they don't have the rights, but that there might be some obligation if they were to adapt them into something else, like a film or a TV series, that they might owe that creator a little bit more. Again, don't know, just speculating. This clip here, we saw a character running across here. Jim, what do we look at? Oh, that's Ahsoka. Okay, There we go.
And she's running right toward this Imperial shuttle, or Lambda class shuttle, whatever. It's very familiar with the triple wings in an inverted Y shape. And it's flying right at her, and it's blasting up a storm. And Ahsoka's running right into the blaster fire. That's pretty amazing. For a television show, look at this stuff happening.
Oh yeah, It does. Yeah. So she's running right towards it.
Yeah.
I wonder if she'll just dust her shoulder off afterwards. Just to show that.
Yeah.
Really didn't phase her. much. Okay, that's cool. Here's another. This is a great shot of Sabine.
And here we are.
Yeah, here's that image we saw at the very end of Rebels.
Right, the portal to Mortis. Or not Mortis, the world between worlds. But the world between worlds and Mortis. I'd like to see the connection being drawn between the two. I think the Ahsoka series might be the place where it could happen. I mean, like the real solid connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is pretty cool. Yeah, this is this speeder bike of some sort. So this is Sabine.
On Lothal.
Yes.
Because we've seen something very similar to this happening in animation, but I believe it was Ezra and Kanan racing up toward Scout Walkers. But here it is Sabine. Nice butt. And she is doing a little slide underneath an E-Wing starfighter from the old Dark Horse Dark Empire comic. And I think that may be the first time we see that in live action, that particular ship. But again, another great callback to Rebels here, the same environment we've seen action take place in prior. And I have to say, I'm very impressed by the things I'm seeing from Rebels and how they translate into live action. Starting with Zeb a couple of weeks ago on Mandalorian.
Yep. And that was really the
footage.
That was the biggest challenge. We knew that Zeb was going to be difficult, and I think they pulled it off really, really well. There were some people that weren't that excited. They didn't like his legs, I guess. Well, his legs were too human or something.
God. You know, people have been complaining about certain things in Star Wars forever, and every time I look at it, I can't see, like Darth Vader's neck in Revenge of the Sith. I had a friend of mine have a complete meltdown for about 20 minutes about it, and I keep looking at it, and I don't know what
Darth Vader's neck?
Darth Vader's neck. What was the other one? Oh, the way Darth Vader walks in Rogue One when he's walking toward Krennic in his castle.
I've heard that one. I've heard this one.
People say he's like walking like he's on some like model runway or something, but I still don't see it. I don't know, you know. People are seeing things at different resolutions, both on the screen and in their heads.
Finrod says, Sabine looks weird with long hair. I liked the green-blue tint the best. I think they needed the long hair. I think they needed a way to show that time had passed, time had elapsed, she's grown, she's older, and who knows, maybe it'll be one of those things where we'll see her get, her short due throughout the seasons.
Right. She goes back.
Like that.
She's like, I like this old style the best.
Yeah.
Got the Shirley Feeney Bob multicolored. But here's what I have to say about long hair. And this goes all the way back to my original pleas to the Clone Wars crew in season 1 of that show to make the hair move on their animated models, because it provides the faster, more intense vibe to see the hair flying up in the air. It all started with the Malevolence arc when Obi-Wan Kenobi was on top of the train, and the train was going at about 1,000 miles an hour, and his hair did not move at all. The only person I know who could pull that off is our pal Swank. But
look at this red hair flowing and flapping in the breeze here.
Right. That adds the faster, more intense edge, just visually speaking. Come on, look at we call him Nahoop, not a hair out of place.
All right, you captured this also for us. Sabine and Ahsoka.
And some dude with glasses.
Oh.
No, he's just one of the audience members.
I fell for it. I'm like, it's
JJ.
JJ. No. There it is.
Yeah,
right.
But you have to see. Did we see where they're flying toward? Can we rewind
let's
just
see.
a
Yeah,
little bit?
yeah. Let's see.
They're like flying toward.
Is this a creature or is it a space whale? I think it's a space whale.
Oh, it's a purgle.
I think it's the mouth of a space whale / purgle.
Wow. Man, I was looking at it. I thought it was like a mountain and they were flying into some sort of hangar bay in the mountain, like what we see on Mount Tantus.
Yeah.
But
that looks organic.
Then I was like, oh, but you know what? Oh,
you see an eye?
it's clearly what it is. And you could see the mouth, what I thought was a hangar bay. It's a mouth opening. And the thing is in motion. These guys are going to fly right into the belly of the whale, just like Jonah. Just like, what's his name from Moby Dick? Moby Dick!
Captain Ahab.
Ah, the white whale. What was his name?
Captain Ahab.
That was Ahab?
That was Ahab.
I guess you're right.
That was Ahab. Yeah. All right, Ahsoka. There we go. New footage.
Wow.
Just for you.
Yes.
And Lars Mikkelsen appeared on the Ahsoka panel, of course, without the makeup, with his Peaky Blinders cap. See that we were talking about Peaky Blinders and Stephen Knight. That's the hat.
I watched the first episode.
Did you?
The first episode. Yeah, I did.
Did you like
Peaky
it?
Blinders. I just came across it. I'm like, well, there it is. I might as well watch it. Yeah,
What did you think?
right.
It was okay.
It didn't like stick to me. But,
Well, sometimes, with these
it was
shows,
kind
the
of
first couple episodes.
Right, right. And period pieces too sometimes. You know. Sometimes it's hard to find your way in there.
Right,
I'm
right.
stuck in the year 2023. What do you want from me? But
Well, everybody was abuzz about Thrawn, including Jon Favreau, apparently. Jon Favreau was talking about Thrawn.
Thrawn is an interesting character because it's one of those characters that started off in literature, but was such an effective character that Dave and George Lucas folded him into the animated series. So it was one of those characters that had such impact that he crossed over. And much the same way, there's an opportunity to cross characters like him over into live action as well. But there's an expectation. It's different than launching a new character where there's no expectation, because people in their mind have a sense of what that might be. And so, but fortunately, Dave Filoni has been in this territory before. He has strong opinions about, how he connects with the character, and certainly the fans do as well. So I think there's just rest assured there's a lot of thought and discussion put into all these decisions, because there's so many different angles to look at it from.
Yeah. So,
and those angles are provided by the old expanded universe and the Timothy Zahn novels, for sure. Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
I just want to correct John. He doesn't know, but he must think Thrawn showed up in the Clone Wars, because he said that Dave and George Lucas decided to incorporate him in animation. And we know Thrawn didn't make his appearance until season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, well after George had sold the company and walked away from it all. But at some point along the weekend, I think Filoni revealed in some interview I had yet to see, but somebody told me about it, that he still does consult with George Lucas on certain elements of the storytelling. And I think that Dave is one of the very few who would have that kind of access, and I'm impressed by that. It doesn't necessarily mean George Lucas is working on Star Wars again, but he's definitely an asset for Filoni to use should Dave get into some kind of bind with something, because it seems like George has an answer for everything, when it comes to this stuff. And that's just kind of a warm and fuzzy to know that George Lucas still is.
I love that. And honestly, I think that Dave is about the only one that George, the only one still working on Star Wars that George actually would answer the text or the phone call.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I know the Game of Thrones guys, when they were in line for the Star Wars.
Well, Benioff and Weiss.
Yeah, they were able to consult with George. I heard a story that George has a place in Italy, and a bunch of writers went out there and had a little conference with him after sometime around the Colin Trevorrow blow up. And I mean, this could be right or wrong, but that's the time I remember hearing about this. And it was Benioff and Weiss. It may have been, maybe J.J. Abrams was part of that crew. I think Dave Filoni was part of that crew, and a few others.
Yeah, Dave was definitely there. I remember hearing that.
Yeah, so they went out to visit him in Italy. And, could you imagine what George Lucas's wine cellar is like at his Italy home? Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
I'm sure the whole thing just exhausts him, the thought of it, and he's so beleaguered
I have so many bottles of wine. So many bottles of wine. They're all so good. I don't know which one to drink next. George is kind of a teetotaler. He doesn't really drink much wine, to be honest with you. He grows wine, wine grapes and produces wine, but he's not much of a drinker.
George.
He's got diabetes. I think that affects the way he
probably
consumes.
He's lived with that his whole life. Hence, I think his Diet Coke guy that just follows him around and slams the Diet Coke in his palm every time he
Diet Coke, Diet Cokes and cheeseburgers. Fuel of genius.
Let's talk a little bit of Mandalorian. There was a Mandalorian panel. Yes, they did. Did they screen the whole episode or just the beginning? Was it the whole episode? They screened the whole episode. So we're not going to get into any spoilers. I thought about talking about it, but
no. I don't know nothing.
Okay, I'm not going to mention it because we're so close to seeing it ourselves, and we'll be back on Wednesday night with the Mandalorian after show. So, but there was apparently
it was well received.
Yes, I heard it was well received. Yeah, I think. But
you could put Pedro Pascal's underpants on stage, and the place would go nuts. I mean, it would go well.
Well, I think
rightly so, probably. But you could put Pedro Pascal's gym shoe on stage, and the place would go nuts. It's a Star Wars celebration, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And there ain't nothing wrong with that. When the place goes nuts, that energy is something you want to soak up as a fan because it's outrageous. But like I said, it's a very easy crowd to rile up.
Right. If you can't make it there, you can't make it anywhere.
Right.
To paraphrase the great Frank Sinatra. All right. So what's this about Doug Chang? So Doug Chang was talking about the Naboo starship. Was he excited about the big Hasbro reveal? Is that it?
I'm sorry, Jason. Do you have the clip with Filoni talking about the sabers before we jump into the Mandalorian?
You're right. We need to discuss that. I saw that in the chat. I do have that clip. Let's go to that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some debate on the after show on Friday as we were reviewing the Ahsoka trailer. We were like, is that a red saber? Is it an orange saber? Is it a red? And Mac was pretty adamant. Mac was like, that's orange. That is not red. That's orange. And I think, was it Kyle or was it somebody was saying, well, it looks different in all these different movies throughout the years, the different special editions. And so there was a lot of, back and forth about it. But Filoni did acknowledge it.
I made it a little bit more orange. That's a really good eye. You're the first person to catch that. That was very intentional. I didn't make them like just a stark red. I remember as a kid that Vader's lightsaber kind of fluctuated from visual effects to visual effects being a little bit more orange. I didn't want it to go like straight up orange, but it's identifying a little bit of something maybe to kids that they might not straight up be what you think they are in the beginning.
So I said this to our Jedi Council, and I really mean it. Is my first instinct at this was like, come on, Dave, what are you doing? Look, there's 3 colors, sometimes 4 of lightsabers. There's green, there's blue, there's red, and occasionally there's purple if it's Sam Jackson. And yeah, I know Rey had a gold lightsaber. That's not the George Lucas color, so I don't count that. But I guess
Ahsoka uses Ahsoka uses white blades.
Ahsoka does use white blades. Okay, so there's 4 or 5. What's with the orange? Well, I calmed myself down because here's the thing about Dave Filoni, and we've seen this firsthand. Dave could be, this is back in the day, Dave could be on a convention floor being flanked by a dozen people just peppering him with questions, and he relished in being challenged. Relished it. Not in a disrespectful way, but he liked it. Remember when he was blowing up all that Karen Travis Mandalorian stuff? He loved it when people would come up to him and say, well, what about this with the Mandalorians? What about this? And why are they pacifists in this? He loved it. And he always had, I thought, brilliant ways of explaining it. Absolutely brilliant ways. And we kind of chalked it up to the fact that he's learned at the knee of the master, George Lucas. So my first instinct was to be kind of critical of this. And then I saw this clip and Dave talking about he's sending a signal out to the kids watching the show. And I go, okay, I see what he's doing here. He wants, in the George Lucas style, he wants to throw visual cues at you so that you have an idea of what you either know or what you don't know. And he's saying that these guys may not be what they appear, and he's telegraphing that with the orange sabers.
Right. Well, there's a whole question about the orange saber. For me, is I kind of approach it the same way I did with Sam Jackson's saber, where I thought, well, blue and red, so the Sith red and the Jedi blue, you combine them and you get a purple, which always kind of told me a story about Mace Windu, that perhaps in the past he'd flirted with the dark side a little bit. Not enough to leave a permanent scar or anything, but enough to make his lightsaber blade turn purple. So it's just kind of a thing I've always tucked in the back of my head. And now with the introduction of Rey's yellow saber, I'm back to thinking the same along those same lines. Is the orange saber then a combination of the Sith red and the Rey yellow? And what does that mean? But Filoni says everything's not as it appears. It looks like this is a world between worlds environment where this guy is lighting up the blade. We know Ahsoka is also there, and they have a duel wherever this is. You know, maybe it's like a skybox overlooking the world between worlds. They're not all the way in there yet. I don't know. That's just me being silly. But so he's got that blade. And so, I mean, maybe he's like a guardian of the world between worlds or something like that. Also, remember the Jedi Temple guards had yellow bladed sabers from Rebels. What does Gonzi have to say?
Oh, he was just saying, I like how they did lightsaber colors in Visions. The Ninth Jedi, that was awesome. The user influences the color.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah,
that was cool. That one. That's one of the most rewatchable shorts of Star Wars Visions is the Ninth Jedi. Yeah. And of course they showed the trailer for the next season of Visions. I don't think we're going to break that one down, but I just wanted to acknowledge it. You know, it's coming. Visions is coming. We're just a few weeks away from it, really. I think it's going to drop May the 4th be with you. And so we'll take a look at it then. But it looks vastly different from the first run that was largely anime influenced. Yeah. This is definitely something different from that. So strap in.
Okay. Doug Chang. Back to Doug Chang and The Mandalorian. Yeah.
Good old Doug. Doug's a great guy. And Doug has been obviously working on Star Wars forever, since the prequel era. And it's interesting that, you know, he's probably one of the most knowledgeable guys about Star Wars working at Lucasfilm. We talk about a lot about Dave Filoni learning at the feet of the master. Well, Doug Chang is another one of those guys, and he's still working on Star Wars. You know, there's a roll call you can go through. Dave Filoni, Doug Chang, John Knoll. They're all still there. A ton of guys at ILM are still there who worked under the tutelage of George Lucas and his production. But Doug Chang, what I like about this comes from his panel, which was all about designing the worlds of Obi-Wan Kenobi and The Mandalorian. Totally worth watching. I haven't seen all of this panel yet. I've only been able to scrub.
Do you know what day it was, Jim?
I'm thinking day 3. I want to say day 3. Day 3 is the one that I really have yet to be able to sit down and get into. That damn Easter holiday just did they know it was a Star Wars holiday? You know, Easter, they plan Easter different dates every year. They need to work around these conventions, okay? Otherwise, I'm at my mom's eating ham and I'm not watching the live stream.
I remember being at a Star Wars celebration during Easter. I think that happened before with us. So,
and the next one's scheduled for 2025, dropping on Easter weekend again. Oh. So, all right, Doug Chang.
Yes.
It's crazy. Doug Chang has, this is up-to-date info about season 3 of The Mandalorian. We've talked so much about this, Jason. This is the moment when Kelleran Beck, who was played by Ahmed Best, he's driving baby Yoda Grogu to safety after Order 66. Master Skywalker, sir. what we're gonna do. Yoinks! But so Baby Yoda delivered to this Naboo starship, and we thought, well, it probably belongs to Jar Jar Binks because there's that symmetry with Ahmed Best playing Kelvin Beck, and going to. But Doug Chang sets the record straight on who the owner of this ship is.
And here's Padme's ship from the landing platform. This brought me back full circle. I felt like I was back in 2001. It was so strangely familiar and yet new. And we even built Padme's ship interior for one of my sketches back in 1999. And here's our new set. We only built a portion of it because that's all we needed. But here's the CG render of the full cockpit. All the details and graphics remain true to before.
Isn't that cool?
That's very cool.
But, I mean, specifically Padme's ship.
Yes.
So that has massive implications on some of these flashbacks we're seeing. And it leads me to crazy speculation. Like, we've heard Grogu had to hide and suppress his Force abilities in order to remain undetected. And he's in that pram. Is he tucked away somewhere in the cargo bay of this starship? Was he there on Mustafar when all the what went down? Was he there on Polis Messiah?
Wait a minute.
Luke
Wait a
and
minute.
Leia
Hold
were
on.
born? Hey, that's what I'm saying. That's the ship.
Can't be. I mean, it's the ship. How crazy is that?
Obi-Wan Kenobi stowed away on it. Why can't you put a pod in a closet?
Move over.
It's impossible. But I mean, that's just the knee-jerk reaction I had to learning the news that this is Padme's ship. Now, is it even the same ship we see in Revenge of the Sith, or is that a different ship? I don't know. I didn't break out the schematics.
But he's going so far as to say, look, this is all based down to the most minuscule detail based on Padme's ship. So, why would they work so hard to get it perfect, to replicate it perfectly, if it wasn't supposed to actually be the same ship?
I really hope season 3 gives us one more flashback with Kelvin Beck and continues that flashback story about where he was flying to, because he might be flying right to Padme's apartment. He gets off that ship, and Padme and 3PO get on board, and Obi-Wan Kenobi sneaks on board, and all of them are completely ignorant to the fact that Baby Yoda is in the glove compartment. They're suppressing his Force abilities so nobody can pick up on his presence. And Baby Yoda is there on Mustafar. Yoda there's on Polis Massa. Baby Yoda is there when they drop Yoda off at Dagobah. And Baby Yoda is there when Luke gets delivered to the Larses. Baby Yoda is there when Leia gets delivered to the Organas. It's possible.
People are saying that there's no way that this was a smaller ship. Can't be true.
Okay, smaller ship. All right. Like I said, I didn't break out the schematics. I don't think it's Padme's ship from episode 1. Somebody said that was a vastly different ship.
She has 2 different ships. They're saying she has 2 different ships. This is the one that she had in episode 2, for sure.
Can a fan dream? Can I have my dreams? This reminds me of like when The Force Awakens came out and everyone started speculating like crazy on Twitter, and Pablo Hidalgo would go into their tweets and go, "No, you're wrong." It's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah. See, all of you in the chat, you're a bunch of Pablo Hidalgos.
They wish they were. They wish they were. Guy's written like 24 Star Wars books. He's been at Lucasfilm for 100 years. Yeah. I'd be Pablo. He takes a lot of arrows, a lot of bullets, but I'd do that for Star Wars. Yeah, I'd do it. But I wouldn't stop going to the conventions. I'd go out there and face them all.
You're a Pablo. All right. Your call's coming up. The number we're putting up on the screen. Tyler Page, our official call screener and program observer, is locked in the cockpit. He's been screening the calls. We've got the switchboard is, I think, almost full. Almost full. So
we are taking calls.
We will be taking calls. 708-866-1737. That's the number, 708-866-1737. But before we do, we got a little bit more in store, including, that's right, we're doing it for you so you don't have to. Fact-checking. It's a big thing in politics these days. It's a huge part of being a responsible member of the media, and we are powerful and influential members of the Star Wars media, so why don't we engage in some of this fact-checking? So, Jimmy Mack, you have brought an issue to the fore about some statements that Kathleen Kennedy made with her IGN interview about Kevin Feige and his project.
Well, you know, it's interesting. KK, when she was talking about that project, she said that the film was never officially announced by Lucasfilm. She said that the announcement was fueled by the press and was never officially announced by LFL. And I remember when this all went down, it was Alan Horn who told one of the trade magazines that Kevin Feige was working on a new Star Wars film. I remember when that happened. And like KK, I didn't recall any official announcement. But thanks to our Bothan spies and the RFR listening audience and viewing audience, they provided me with some info. And I don't really think this requires any setup. We're just going to roll the tape and place the evidence in front of you guys.
Kevin Feige's project was something announced in the press, or I suppose fandom, but there was nothing ever got developed.
Right. Kevin Feige, diehard Star Wars fan, owner of multiple Hasbro Jabba sail barges, and president of Marvel Studios, will now be able to add Star Wars producer to his list of achievements.
That's right. With the close of the Skywalker saga, Kevin Feige is set to co-produce an upcoming Star Wars movie with Kathleen Kennedy in a new era of Star Wars storytelling.
Did anybody tell KK? they're reporting this on StarWars.com, probably as a knee-jerk reaction to the Alan Horn leak, but it sure seemed like there was something going on there. And there was a writer attached to the project and everything, too.
Look, I'm just going to tell you that the StarWars.com, that is fandom in a nutshell right there. So when I say that it was announced by fandom, I mean StarWars.com. See, she's always right.
But Kathy, on your own website, you got Andy and Sandy there making a big deal about it.
Well, I said fandom. Andy and Sandy are huge Star Wars. As you know, they're huge Star Wars fans.
I do.
And so they're fans, and this is fandom, and this was announced on, the press at fandom.
Oh, I see. So the people you employ, they're fans, and so what they say.
Jimmy Mack, is that your name, Jimmy Mack? Jimmy Mack, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. As you know, I've been a Star Wars fan for a long, long time. Ever since I saw those big spaceships fly up over my head in the movie theater.
I certainly don't doubt your pedigree when it comes to film production. You've been involved in some of the biggest box office hits of all time, and now you're running Lucasfilm. And I say, let's give Kathy Kennedy a flipping break. And see
we're not giving her a pass on this. No. This was
listen. Every time she talks on a microphone, I mean, it's a 50-50 thing, but I mean, when it comes to the films that are coming up here, everyone is predicting they won't happen. Something's going to go wrong. It's never going to be released on time and stuff. I just want to maybe take a step back from that, because with the 3 films that they announced, I believe they have a clear path, the most clear path they've had since they announced the sequel trilogy. And granted, I think the sequel trilogy was mismanaged with their whole pass the baton from director to director thing, and they hired a bunch of the wrong voices to be at the table, and that's on KK, I'll tell you what. And also this floundering with the film franchise and stuff. But here we are. We're being presented with a plan, and not just any plan, but like a 6-year plan, a solid plan. And it's not vague things like Taika Waititi's working on a movie. No, it's like, here's our writer. He's our director as well. He's got a fully fleshed concept. He's banging out the script right now. Here's Daisy Ridley. She's the star of the next movie. We even have cast members lined up. That to me is substantial. There's substance to that. When they announced Rogue Squadron, it was still kind of a dream, you know?
I gotta push back a little bit on that because
sure. I don't blame you.
They released it was not a teaser, but it was a little preview piece. It was sort of a motion poster, and there was so much passion and excitement by, I forgot her name again. What's her name?
Patty
Jenkins. Yeah. You know, she was really leaning into the fighter pilot thing. Her father, bravely served as a fighter pilot. And so I thought that had about as much, that was a done deal. That was a done deal. To commit it to film and have her create that little teaser piece and all of that.
It was fluff. It was fluff. There was no substance behind it, They had just hired her. They hadn't even banged out anything. They just had a vague
but she was
idea.
wearing a costume and she climbed up the ladder.
I know, but that's still just promotional BS. Can't you see through that?
Having Mangold walk across the stage isn't just promotional BS. Now the Daisy Ridley movie.
James Mangold has a much stronger career pedigree than Patty Jenkins.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking about
Patty was the current thing of the week, because of the Wonder Woman thing. But she, Mangold has put in, and also Mangold was going to be brought on for the Boba Fett film. That didn't work out. Then he was going to be, they brought him on for the Indiana Jones thing. And that is nearing completion. If it's not already completely in the can by now.
You're conflating issues. You're conflating.
No, I'm not. Because he has a history with this studio that Patty Jenkins
No. But you were talking about the rollout specifically, not the
Yes.
pedigree of the talent. You were talking about the rollout seemed more substantive. And I'm saying that having Patty Jenkins in some sort of teaser where they threw in the special effects of her, dropping into an X-Wing, I don't see that as being any less impactful than James Mangold walking across the stage at Celebration.
I think it is, because I think that was a welcome to the family video. It wasn't, we've been working on this for the better part of the last year and a half. And all of these films had the green light from Lucasfilm last year, like summertime last year. So these things have been going, man. They've been going. Rogue Squadron was not that. Wasn't even close to that. Not even close to that. It was an idea. And then they had too many cooks in the kitchen, and there was friction. Some of those cooks have been removed from the Lucasfilm executive offices. And so maybe that might provide a cleaner path for a solid guy like James Mangold to go into Star Wars and do what he wants to do with the franchise, unfettered by silly things like story group or executive interference or too many of the wrong voices at the table. I have so much more confidence in this, and it's because Mangold and Kennedy have been working together now for the better part of the last 3 years, or whenever it was when Steven Spielberg
worked with Ryan Johnson
away.
quite a bit too, and you can see how his trilogy worked out.
The old Ryan Johnson example, which is going to just haunt Star Wars forever, isn't it? I want to be progressive and move forward. I don't want to look back at Ryan Johnson. I don't even want to look back at last week's Mandalorian episode. I want to move forward. And Star Wars Celebration is giving me that launching pad. Celebration London is giving me a fresh start, and it's providing me with a solid path for the next 5 to 6 years of Star Wars.
All right, let's get into the Acolyte. We want to talk Acolyte. This was the one that has seemed to, for me, to be the most hard to pin down. I think it's the hardest one to pin down, in that what it's trying to achieve, what it wants to be. And I don't know really, after seeing the interviews on Star Wars, on StarWars.com, the interviews they did with, right there in the gallery, the panel, the quotes coming out of the panel, I still don't have a concrete feeling for what this is going to be. We do have some footage here. We're going to do the footage first, and then we'll...
Yeah, this isn't complete. They showed some footage at the Acolyte panel, and we have about a minute of it. And you'll get a vibe. You'll get a little bit of a vibe. Let's take a look. Got some kids. You see, they're sitting like they're being trained in a Jedi temple type environment. Padawans, younglings.
We must not trust them.
They're walking through a typical Star Wars marketplace.
It is power. We must respect.
Jedi sitting in a restaurant. And then Jedi brawling. Boy, they're really fond on that backward slide move, aren't they? You see that in the Ahsoka trailer.
Yeah, it's very Matrixy.
Yeah, it sure is,
Yeah.
I'd like to be on the crew and just like be the one pulling the rope that pulls the guy back like that. But so that's all we have. It really doesn't provide us with too much information about what the show's all about. We know it's set in the High Republic era, and I had questioned it's toward the end of the High Republic, sort of like the transition into the prequel era, from what I understand. I think a lot of this story is going to be told from the perspective of the Jedi Master, who we see in this brief clip. He's the guy talking to the
Li Zhongzhe.
That's him. And he's talking to the younglings, the Padawans. And then it's also going to be told from the perspective of someone on the dark side of the Force. It would have to be, the Acolyte might be some apprentice to a Sith Lord. But we know the
Sith Lord?
A Sith Lord. But they're keeping themselves quiet in this time frame.
Yeah.
So I think that really limits any kind of interaction between Jedi and Sith, because it's said that Darth Maul's appearance on Tatooine in The Phantom Menace is the first appearance of a Sith Lord in over 1,000 years. So the Sith have to be like on the down low for sure. And that's basically all I
they talked about the Sith being at a huge disadvantage during this time frame. The Sith don't have the upper hand here, and this is something
they have no hand.
They have no hand in this particular series. The notion of it being Frozen meets Kill Bill, that was something that was talked about.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with one of those.
Hit the clip of Amanda Stenberg. She describes the vibe of the Acolytes and sort of reiterates that Kill Bill / Frozen thing. And then I want to kind of analyze what she has.
Amanda all decked out as Padme from
episode 2 Padme.
Yeah,
nice.
I like that.
The tone of the show, which is very much inspired by martial arts films. It's very inspired by Kill Bill. Leslie likes to say that the show is a combination of Frozen and Kill Bill, which is kind of a nuts combo. But I think tonally it's really exciting. It's really dark. It has a sense of magical realism.
The Frozen thing, I can speak to that. I have not seen Kill Bill.
I have.
Okay, great. The one thing that I can throw out as far as Frozen, my takeaway from that, Frozen is not the meatiest of the Disney fairy tales, I would say. But the overarching theme is a character that has special powers, but is being encouraged not to use them, not to express them. And so it becomes a big story about self-expression, being yourself, letting it go, letting the powers fly. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. Someone has latent or secret Force powers. Now, we shouldn't assume that it's a Jedi. It could be a Sith that has these types of powers. In fact, in the movie Frozen, and in the fairy tale, the character of Elsa is really kind of told that her powers are bad, evil, scary, that she shouldn't be doing them. So you can see how easily that character could have become a villain. And she does kind of have a villainous moment. Her sister brings her out of it, in a very kind of Star Wars-y sort of thing. So I'm thinking that this is where they're getting the Frozen concept. Where's the Kill Bill? Tell me what I should know about Kill Bill and how it might figure into a Star Wars movie or series like this.
3 words, my friend. Violent martial arts.
Okay.
They'll chop sake up your butt. So that's what's coming. And I love that, I mean, martial arts. You made note of The Matrix. And The Matrix has strong martial art activity going on in it. So probably more of like a Matrix vibe as far as the martial arts end of things. But they bring up Kill Bill. Kill Bill is, it's Quentin Tarantino. So it's
right.
It's very graphically violent, and and I don't see that necessarily translating over into a Disney Plus show. Ladies and gentlemen, if I took a poll before this show started, guess which RFR show host saw Frozen, and guess which one saw Kill Bill? And I think we've been 100% swank Frozen, Mac, Kill Bill.
Of course.
I've never seen Frozen. And I feel at a disadvantage when I go to the Disney parks and I hear all the music and I see all the references and I don't get it. I really don't get it. So I want to see Frozen, but will I ever see Frozen? That's one of those mysteries that's probably best left unsolved at this point.
I had a picture of Jonas as the Wookiee marching across the stage.
Can we bring up Tyler Page, official show observer, Tyler Page?
Yes, Tyler.
Tyler, don't you have a question for Jason regarding the Acolyte and a certain character?
Yeah, how are we feeling, Jason, about Jonas's character? Him
I think it looks ridiculous.
Wookiee Jedi.
I think
Wookiee Jedi.
I think it looks ridiculous. I think it looks worse.
That's not
worse
fair.
than I could have possibly imagined.
Do we have a photo of Jonas?
Someone sent it to me. I thought it was in the Jedi Council, but it may not. It may not have been. Boy, we talked about a lot of stuff that day. Over the last several days, so I don't know. I don't think I have it. Shoot.
Well, I saw a photo online, and it was a Wookiee wearing an apron, and it had a top knot. But I accept the Wookiee Jedi. I've been conditioned ever since the Young Jedi Knights series from the 90s, featuring Jason and Jaina Solo, and amongst their pals was a Wookiee Jedi initiate named Lobaka. And then we had Gunji in both Clone Wars and
I don't love Gunji. I don't hate Gunji, but you know what my beef is. I think they're a very primitive species, and for them to be able to get, not that they couldn't have innate Force abilities and a connection to the Force, same way a squirrel or something does, but beyond that, I just don't see them having the sophistication to actually sit down and study and learn the ways of the Force. I don't know. I'm not a fan. He might end up being my favorite character. Whatever that guy, whatever his name. I mean, Jonas playing him is a great start, but I'm not in love with the idea.
Yeah, Jonas is this is gonna be his first non-Chewbacca appearance in Star Wars, and he's playing Kelnaka. I like the name at least. It's got the Aka. You want your
you gotta
Wookiees.
have the Aka.
You gotta have the Aka. Gotta have the Aka. There are going to be crossovers between characters from the High Republic and the High Republic publishing series and this show, specifically a character named Vernesta Rowe. She's going to be making the transition from the printed page to live action. So we'll see how all that goes. I've struggled with the High Republic just because I'm not really fond of the storytelling, and it really seems to be bogged down with way too many different moving parts, too many characters, too many different. It's just everything is like I feel like every third paragraph I have to go to Wikipedia and look stuff up. That doesn't make for a very the reading experience doesn't flow for me when I'm reading High Republic because it just gets so confusing. But in a live action format with focus and characters who we can see develop and get to know and maybe visually it might be better.
Look at this.
So, he put up a picture of Leslie Headland and what is Kelnaka, I guess, from the
look at him.
The Acolyte series, and he looks cool, man. He's got Jedi robes on. He's got a big ass belt.
Okay, here's the thing: if I saw this at a convention and some fan created this character, I'd be like, "That's awesome, dude! Jedi Wookiee,
awesome.
All right." But yeah, I just I'm just not feeling it. And he's wearing clothes. Like, why is he wearing? So this makes me believe that Chewbacca is running around naked all through the sequels and the original trilogy. Because why
the bandolier doesn't cover up enough for you, Swank?
No, so why does this Wookiee need to have the tunic?
Because all the other Jedi are doing it.
Well, all the other rebels are wearing clothes.
Don't we know what we need to know about being a Jedi already? You have to let go of your attachments. You have to let go of your tendency to be a nudist. You have to wear Jedi robes. That's part of it. You have to become part of the collective. You can't be some rogue Jedi just walking around nude all the time. You got to put on there's that top now. He looks like Joakim Noah from the Bulls back in about 20 years ago. Why am I making a Joakim Noah joke? That's Lobaka, that's Kelnaka. Another Aka, Lobaka, Chewbacca, Kelnaka, Gunji. Which one of these things don't belong? I'm looking forward to it because to me, a Wookiee means Star Wars. It's one of those touch points, those visual touch points that's necessary to immerse me in the galaxy.
Okay, hold on. I got to respond to Skyrider
like
here.
Chewbacca. They can't all be acting like Chewbacca. We have Carsan or whatever his name is.
Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum.
Yeah, we've got a question here from Skyrider. He's saying, wait, Jason, hold on a second. You're okay with Black Chrysanthemum, but not a Wookiee Jedi. Yeah, absolutely. I'm okay with a Wookiee being a somewhat barbaric bounty hunter that rips people's arms out of their sockets when they get pissed off. I don't think that's going to work really well in the Jedi Council, but we'll see what Kelnaka has to say. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it's much more believable that a Wookiee could be a bounty hunter and, go around and use his brute strength. I'm just saying that it takes discipline, and that's not what I consider Wookiee strong suits to be.
It sure seems like they march to the beat of their own drum. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But
and again, there's so much they can do with filters and lighting and all of that. But if this doesn't say holiday special, come on. That screams holiday special. Big Steve's in the crowd. Love Big Steve. He says, those robes look like something out of a Sid and Marty Krofft show. I agree. I agree.
You're encouraging Swank. Stop it.
So Blue Guy says, so you consider a Wookiee an animal and not a person? I consider them a primitive person that hasn't evolved to the point of being able to dedicate your life to the type of mental work that is required in being a Jedi. Yeah, I know that makes me a speciest or whatever it does.
Now, there is a moment in the Star Wars radio drama.
Well, here we go.
When Ben Kenobi...
You made me tell you, no rabbit trails tonight. Here we go. We got radio drama.
Ben Kenobi introduces Chewbacca to Luke.
Yes.
And Chewie walks away to go tell Han, hey, I got a hot one here for you. And when Chewbacca walks away, Ben says, Wookiees have their own affinity for the Force, Luke. And when I hear him say own affinity, that almost makes me want to agree with you. It's saying that the Wookiees do have a connection to the Force, but it's unlike that of a Jedi. It's almost like Ben is specifically saying they have their own affinity for the Force. So I pulled out the old novelization just to see if that line is actually
dog-eared. I think there might be some clear packing tape holding that cover on somewhere.
Yeah. I stole this from my grammar school in 1976. I still have it. I can prove it to you too. You can see the maybe it was 77 when I actually checked it out, but there it is. March
Look at that.
16. And that was March 16, 1977. I snagged this book, or is that 18? I can't tell. 18. And I snagged this book out of the school library and never returned it. Held on to it. There it is. St. Catherine Library.
Imagine
School,
the late fees.
Glenview, Illinois.
We could probably build a new school there in Glenview with the late fees that are owed.
I shouldn't be revealing this.
No, you're going to get a knock
They'll
on the
send
door like in
library
that
cops
Seinfeld when the librarian shows up, or the library detective, because Jerry's had a book out since high school. All right.
Well, I'm looking for the passage.
Okay, while you do that,
this comes from George Lucas's notes.
Uh-huh.
And Alan Dean Foster ghost wrote this novel based on George Lucas's direction.
Oh, shoot. Hey, you know what? We got to do this. I got to take this call. While you're looking for that, we got to take the call. We didn't get to him on Friday. I think he's still here. All right. Right before bedtime, we're going to bring him on. We haven't talked to him in a while. We got Blake's take. Hey, Blake. Oh. Can you hear me now, buddy? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hey, chat, buddy.
Long have I waited.
Oh, man. Well, thank you for your patience. Have you been watching the celebration coverage online?
I've been watching. I've watched like a little bit of bits and pieces. I know a lot that's going on. So I've been like I know everything that's coming out and all that. I've seen the trailers.
Even the ones that you weren't supposed to see that we showed earlier tonight?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
I even saw those.
All right. So what's got you excited about these reveals?
The world between worlds.
All right, the world between worlds. So you're looking forward to all those Rebels characters coming back on the Ahsoka series, I assume.
Yeah. So I'm just hooked. So in the world between worlds, I'm assuming that's what it is. It looks exactly like it in the Ahsoka trailer.
Uh-huh.
It looks exactly like the world between worlds. I'm thinking that Ahsoka will go through there and she'll connect with Anakin.
Oh,
this is gonna go with the new Rey movie, where she she brings back the Jedi, or when she connects with him, it will somehow mess with Kylo or something.
All right, well,
let's
take this one at a time, because You got a thumbs up from Jimmy Mack, and you're getting a thumbs up from me because we've talked about all the speculation and, that Hayden Christensen's going to show up on Ahsoka. We've thought, could it be a Clone Wars flashback? A lot of us have hoped that it could be a Clone Wars flashback. Is it a Force ghost of Anakin appearing to Ahsoka? What you're throwing out here is that he could appear via the world between worlds. I think right out of the mouths of babes, I think you nailed it, Blake. I think that's where we're going to get our Anakin cameo. World between worlds. We know that can produce I don't want to say visions or whatever the heck it does. I guess they're visions or mental impressions of various people. And so that could very well be what gives us that cameo. I like it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty astute. Good job, Blake. You're nailing it again, buddy, as you do every week.
All right, now explain the connection between Kylo and Rey. That's where you lost me a little bit. But
So we know that in the new Rey movie, her own standalone basically is what kind of is, where she's going to bring back the Jedi Order. Maybe we know that if you mess something up, it'll open another timeline. I guess, like another world.
Right. It could do that. It could do that.
Yeah. So if she goes and connects with Anakin, that could somehow go to the sequels. It could change the future in a timeline.
So are you saying that it could alter what we saw in the sequels so that those are sort of a parallel timeline?
Yeah, where there can be like multiple things that could happen. Like maybe after she connects, maybe Han Solo don't die. Or Luke. Or Leia. We don't. It could be anything.
Yeah.
The problem with opening up the multiverse concept in Star Wars is you're opening up the potential of seeing Harrison Ford on screen playing Han Solo, which would be great, but he'd be standing right next, 6'2" Harrison standing right next to 5'8" Alden Ehrenreich, also playing Han Solo. I don't think it'd be as effective as it was when they got all three Spider-Men together. That's just me.
Blake, I do like this idea. I will say, if they could somehow tie Rey in to the world between worlds, then that could explain how Ahsoka and Anakin are reaching out to Rey in The Rise of Skywalker. If there is some sort of introduction there or some sort of awareness that is created of who these characters are between each other, I like it. I like what you're going with. I can't jump on board the idea that it's going to change Star Wars history or Star Wars future, but I do like that it could create connections with these characters.
I also want to say that I think Rey has basically already been in the world between worlds. I guess a version of it, you can say, because of her vision.
Okay.
All the vision she had.
All right, but
it's like the future.
I think the worlds between worlds isn't something that you can necessarily visit in a vision. I think it's literally a place that you would access through. Well, I guess okay. All right. It's not totally out of the realm of possibility, but I think your winner theory for this week is that the cameo of Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker is likely to take place in the world between worlds. I like it, buddy. And we like you a lot too. So we're going to jump on to some more callers because, we missed out on some on Friday, but you have a great rest of your week. Well, we'll probably talk to you on Wednesday, right? Mandalorian episode 7 for this season.
I'll try. We have a baseball game.
Oh, all right. Well, it's nice weather. You're playing the baseball. My son's playing the soccer, but we'll catch up soon. Okay, buddy?
Okay.
All right.
Spoken.
He's
Would it
got
be a
it
hoot
down.
if we all showed up at Blake's Little League game?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
All of
RFR
us,
meetup.
everyone in the chat, everyone,
Can you
all the
imagine?
listeners, we all show up there. We're all cheering for Blake. Oh, Blake. Oh, that would be wild.
Okay, we do. We're going to get to more calls, promise, in your super chats. We do have a couple more clips we want to play because there might be some of you out there that want to talk about these. And you know what? We might as well do it. We've got a clip from Skeleton Crew. We ready for this one?
I think so.
All right, let's do it.
Do you ever want to do anything exciting?
All right, now this is the second time now we've seen kids in class.
Kids in class,
but they're not
and,
Jedi.
And the way I heard this described is it's like these are kids in the Star Wars equivalent of a suburb. So they're in Star Wars suburbs.
Okay.
All right. So meaning they're, far away from the front lines.
Well, this is short. We'll let this play out and then we'll talk.
Do you ever want to do anything exciting?
Garage of some sort.
Wham! You better be studying.
Okay, this looks like everyday life.
Wham!
Oh, we got a little alien action there.
The glasses immediate turn.
You're not going to just turn out. You need to find them.
So the kids have disappeared. Oh, there's, what's his name?
Dash?
Pang? Short name.
Sorry, I'm having some headphone issues.
Sorry. Well, it's the audio on this isn't super great. I don't think this is the full clip, but it's enough to give us a flavor. No, what's the name of the pirate? Kang?
Is he Vash?
Vash.
Is that his name? I can't remember. But he is the exact same pirate that we've been seeing show up in season 3 of The Mandalorian. He's going to be more of a player here on the Skeleton Crew.
Yeah. Let's see, what else can we glean? Okay, so this is mom and dad, at least of one of the kids, it looks like, and they've somehow disappeared. I don't know exactly how or why. It seems maybe accidental. So it could be they got transported or they ended up on a ship that took them somewhere. Well, that looks pretty real worldy, that little keyboard there that they're typing on. It doesn't have a Star Wars vibe to me. Here's more of the Star Wars office that we've seen now on a couple of series. Vane. Thank you, Blue Guy. Vane.
Vash.
That's the name
Vash
of
was
the pirate.
Picard's girlfriend.
I think this is the library that Jimmy Mack stole that book from. It looks like it to me.
Jason, I have to excuse myself. I need to go find needle nose pliers.
Needle nose pliers. Is that right?
Yes. When I reached for the Star Wars novel, I knocked over a picture frame of myself and Kenny Baker from 23 years ago.
Okay.
There we are.
Uh-huh.
And I knocked that over, and when I did, it hit my headphones, and it snapped the adapter thing, and so I have no way. It's stuck in my board. I have no way
All right.
To hear anything until I pry that out.
Well,
I have to go get a needle.
That's fine. Guess what, Tyler? You're on, buddy.
What's up?
All right. Tyler Page, ladies and gentlemen. All right. You didn't know you were going to be talking about this. So this is Skeleton Crew. And interestingly enough, I don't believe we see Jude Law on here at all. And he's, the big marquee star. But what it looks to me like these kids get lost somehow, whether they get on this ship and they need to find their way home. My guess is that Jude Law is the kindly person that they run into that ends up taking these kids under his wing and helps to find them on their way back. Now, this little guy here, check this out.
Yeah.
Little elephant tusk guy. Is this like a baby Max Rebo? Is that what we're looking at?
He just needs a drum set, man. Right.
I know. I was going to say it could be like a long snoot Garandon, but no, I don't think so. I think this is definitely some sort. It's probably something we haven't seen, but it'd be great if it was a young Max Rebo. I would like that.
Is this going to be like Finding Nemo, where they go on like a field trip and get lost somewhere?
Yeah. Okay, that could be.
I don't know.
Yeah, that could be.
This
or
is
like
the first time
Space
I'm seeing
Camp.
this trailer, by the way. So,
Oh, that's all right. It's first time for a lot of people. But maybe it's like Space Camp, you know?
Mhm.
Let's see, what else can we take a look at? Here's a little ship going across a moon. And, okay, this is Dad when he comes home and discovers the kids aren't there. Yeah, very little information to go on here, but I don't know. I would say of all the shows, this feels the least Star Warsy.
Yeah, when she like puts that thing in the visor goes down, that reminds me of like X-Men. Not really Star Wars. But who knows? I'm open. I'll wait for stuff to come in.
Yeah, another comparison people are making in addition to Stranger Things, of course, a huge influence on Stranger Things is the Goonies, and I'm down with that. I love Goonies. Michael Nip here on the chat is saying described as Amblin vibes. I'm here for it. Oh yeah, so your E.T., your Goonies, stuff like that. I think that's great. I mean, there are a lot of different types of films that have informed Star Wars over the years, but at the same time, Star Wars has also informed a lot of films that came after it. So it seems like it could potentially be one big cycle, as you know, this is influenced by the films that were later influenced by Star Wars. So it's very meta, I suppose. Hard to judge it too much. There's nothing in this trailer that makes me go, oh, I have got to see this. This is killer. This is a kick-ass moment. But, you know, it might be one of those kind of sleeper things where this comes out with low expectations, or maybe not low, but little expectations, and this becomes a big hit, certainly with a certain demo in the Star Wars audience.
Yeah, I think anything with Jude Law attached to it is going to have some sort of expectation. You know, he brings a certain weight experience to...
Yeah, it's hard to imagine them landing a star of that quality without having a quality story, quality scripts. I can't imagine him just... obviously, Star Wars has a lot of cachet. Some people are just big fans and they want to jump on board and they want to do it. But somebody like Jude Law, he's got a good track record. So this is one where I'm just going to... I don't quite see it yet based on what we're seeing, which is very rough stuff. But I'll reserve judgment, obviously. I'm not going to tank it. I'm not going to say this is terrible or anything like that. There's just too many questions. Okay, thanks, Tyler, for filling in. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
I think you did a great job. I don't know about Mac, how much you heard of that, but...
Misa back! Look at that. I extracted this. This was jammed into my board. I couldn't get it out. But I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. It's like a pit crew in here. Working rapid fire speed to come back and entertain you with my spot-on analysis and wild speculation.
All right, we got one more to show, and that is Andor Season 2.
Ooh.
There was a lot of talk about Andor, obviously, at the Andor panel, and Tony Gilroy really, I think, endeared himself to a lot of fans. You know, Tony he's certainly not one to pretend. You know, he's no BS with this guy.
No BS.
He's not going to go out there and pretend that he's the biggest Star Wars fan on the planet. But you could tell from some of the quotes that I read and a few of the little jostly clips that I saw that he really was, I think, taken aback by the reception that he got and the love that Star Wars fans have for Andor.
Oh, yeah. He's the same old Tony Gilroy, no matter what sort of circumstance you find him in. You put him on that live stream stage, he's dropping S-bombs like he thinks he's F.J. DeSanto or something. You know, he's just so straightforward. And he approaches writing in such a logical way, and he sets up the dominoes and knocks them all down, and they all fall in perfect order. That's every time I hear Tony Gilroy talk about screenwriting, That's the impression I get. Here's a guy who knows exactly what he's doing. And I love that. I love that. And quite honestly, when I hear James Mangold talk about screenwriting, I get a similar vibe. That's why I'm so optimistic for what he's going to present. And Tony Gilroy, he's killer. You know, I saw some of the interviews. I did not see the Andor panel, but I know they did show some footage there, and I'm not very familiar with the footage myself, so I'm looking forward to giving it a spin, and let's talk about what we see.
Let's do it.
We know Andor is going to cover a 4-year period between the end of season 1 and the beginning of Rogue One. It's going to all Partagas, they're all back. All the usual suspects. What I can just glean from that rapid fire bit of images we saw, I see a Cyril Karn who is definitely evolved. His hair seems a little longer. He doesn't seem as buttoned down. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
See him right
see him here, bounding through the security at the entrance.
He's one of those types. He's like me. If you run through the metal detector fast enough, it won't beep.
He's definitely looser. You do see him at the breakfast nook, so that hasn't changed. But again, this covers, as you say, 4 years. I think it's 3 episodes per year. Looks like a little romance going on here.
Each story arc will cover 3 episodes, and those 3 episodes will represent 1 year closer to the beginning of Andor.
Right.
So we'll get 4 arcs throughout the season, much like season 1 was broken down into very specific arcs. Here's a shot at Luthen's shop. It looks like his assistant is pulling out some sort of secret stuff from a drawer.
Yeah, it's maybe like a secret communications terminal or something that she's able to just throw under the desk, so you don't even know it.
What was her name? Clea or something? Clea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a switchboard.
Luthen looking badass as always, cruising. Look at him cruising the gallery, just like, look at me. What has he got? He's got the wig on. He's feeling good. Is that Bix? Who is that? I can't really tell. That's not Bix.
Is it Bix?
I can't tell. It's hard to tell because different hair for sure. I don't know.
Definitely different hairstyle. And some of these look to be some new characters.
Someone is claiming there's a Kino Loy appearance in this footage.
Oh, really?
Let's scroll through a little bit.
Well, Andy Serkis was there at the panel, but they left it quite nebulous.
Of course.
Yeah. But I think if Kino was
that a Bothan man was walking with? Was that a Bothan?
Is that a Bothan?
He may be a Bothan. Hard to tell. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the introduction of Bothans, live action Bothans in season 2 of Andor. I'm just speculating. Stormtroopers patrolling what seems to be some sort of rally or protest or celebration.
I'm thinking protest here.
Yeah, it's probably they're clapping. Well, who knows? Clapping.
Those are not Imperial flags that they're waving, so most likely.
Some guy sitting in a chair.
And he's a new character. We haven't seen
No.
before.
He's the buddy from season 1, isn't he? The buddy who Cassian visits at work in the very first episode, and he uses him as an alibi. I forgot his name. Pack? Is his name Pack?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so.
With the gloves, and I think that's the same.
I thought he was a younger dude.
They might emphasize time passage.
Oh, here's Ma.
Different appearances for the characters.
Breakfast with Ma.
Ma Karn. Oh boy. In a breakfast nook yet again. And that blue milk couldn't be more blue. Who's this trying on some fancy white gloves? She's feeling like like she's like a nurse or something. That's what it
I
the
think she's
vibe
going
I
out
get
for a
from
night
her.
on the town. I think she's
Yeah,
kind of
maybe,
got that,
maybe.
sort of got that.
Right,
1940s.
Brazo.
Kinda with the,
That's the character Brazo. Everyone's saying that's not him, so I don't know what I'm seeing here.
all righty. Now that's Bix with Cassian here.
Seems like an intimate moment.
Yes.
Which we didn't really see the two of them share. It was like it seemed to me watching season 1 that any sort of romance in their relationship would be a thing of the past.
This is kind of cool. You can tell they're using some primitive spy techniques here with maybe some sort of code or some sort of secret message that's been disguised inside. I don't know what that is. Looks like a coconut or something. Or like a little nut.
You're a little nut.
All right, what else we got?
I couldn't help myself. Sometimes
we
you feel
got
like a nut.
this
Sometimes you
beret.
don't.
This is a different look for an Imperial.
Ooh, beret for Cyril.
Yeah.
And then that appears to be some sort of Imperial behind him with that cap. It looks more like a fez, if you want the honest to God truth. And who's that?
Hard to say. The footage is a little bit grainy.
Yeah. So we'll definitely see the introduction of new characters, new actors in season 2 of Andor. But a lot of this footage, it does appear it's the old crew.
Yep. Is he giving himself a haircut here? Those scissors?
Yeah.
Oh no, he's just combing his hair. I think it's a Star Wars comb. It's got like a little ring at the bottom of it.
Soon to be available at Galaxy's Edge for $30.
It looks great. I mean, the bummer is we got to wait until August of 2024 to see it. I want to see it like tomorrow. I really do. Really enjoyed that show. It just provided for some really meaty after shows. And
I say bring on Ahsoka. I'm ready for that.
All right, Ahsoka is August of this year, so it's not going to be too much longer. We'll be back together for it won't be too much longer after Mandalorian wraps up. We'll be back in August.
Genevieve O'Reilly will be in Ahsoka. We saw a glimpse of her standing there with other senators. Presumably, she is the chancellor. I think that's
right.
been
Yes.
confirmed.
Right.
Yeah.
So
she is
becoming
going to
quite
be the chancellor.
prolific.
The other senators we see her standing with in that Ahsoka trailer have all been identified via the photo description. One guy's named Senator Mawwood. He's played by Maurice Irvin. Another guy is Senator Rodrigo, played by Jacqueline Antaramian. Chancellor Mon Mothma, Genevieve O'Reilly. Senator Ziono, Nelson Lee, which leads me to believe it's Kaz Ziono's father, who was referenced in the first season of Star Wars Resistance. So they are transferring a character from Star Wars Resistance, one we never saw on screen. And at least I don't recall ever seeing Kaz face off with his father. Although there's like, maybe I have this vague memory of maybe some hologram communication he may have had with his dad and stuff. But I mean, if I haven't committed Star Wars Rebels completely to my fandom memory, then there's no way that Resistance stayed in there for more than a couple of weeks. But Kaz, I remember Kaz had this senator father, Kaz Ziono, Senator Ziono. Boom, he's going to be in Ahsoka along with a grand senator, a Reese type named played by Erica Duke. So we'll get a female grand, it sounds like, in Star Wars.
There's hope for you yet, Reese.
Yeah, he's got 3 eyes. Now he's got something to look at.
All right. We've been doing all the heavy lifting. Now it's your turn. So we're going to take your calls. We're going to start with Peter Beiser, who's a very familiar name on the chat. He's been very patient waiting. Peter, thank you very much for hanging on.
Chut, boys. How you doing tonight?
Chut.
So, interesting. Last week, I feel like in no time in my fandom have I had whiplash like I did last week. Wednesday.
Yeah?
Get texts from friends.
Oh.
The world is ending. Lizzo destroyed my childhood. Jack Black kicked my dog. Christopher Lloyd peed in the pool. Right?
Well, let's not get
2
so
days
hyperbolic.
Later,
You know, when you say that, you diminish any sort of critical thought we have about the episode. I stand by that review. I don't care what was going on in London.
Oh, that's
that last
that's
episode
not
of The
that's the
Mandalorian
respect I'm
blew
getting,
chunk.
Jimmy.
All right.
All right,
You had to
anyway,
bring
2
that
days
up,
later,
did you,
same
Peter?
guy.
You had to pick at that wound, that scab a little bit, did you, Peter? They say nobody nicer than Peter Beiser. Well,
But think about this. Two days later, same people are saying, "Wow, Ahsoka's going to be wonderful. This looks great. Oh wow, so much good stuff coming out of the convention." And then today, yeah, none of those movies are going to happen. None of it's happening.
No, they will happen.
Every other day. Right, the pendulum in terms of the fandom. Kind of goes
Well,
back and forth.
okay, all right. You're right, Peter. That is a reality. You are right. However, I want to stick up a little bit for the disappointed fan, the cynical fan, and then why do they feel this way? Well, they feel this way because that has been our reality for a long time. You talk about yo-yo, you talk about whiplash. This director's in, this director's out, this writer's in, this writer's out, this project's in, the project's out. That's whiplash. And so to think that we're not going to have that reaction, Kathleen Kennedy herself, we had the clip, where they asked her about the Feige movie. We had that earlier on. And I will say, she got a little defensive. She jumped, well, that was nothing more than that wasn't even officially announced. It was that. So that her sensitivity there tells me that she realizes she's no dummy. She's got press people. She reads the trades. Even some of the legit trades are calling them out on some of this. So do I think it would be fun to just sit around and just greet all of the news with a rim shot and say it's never going to happen? That'd be really boring, right? But at the same time, I do understand the fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 4 times. So I do get that.
No, I hear you. It's just funny how quickly, all the feelings, it's up and down, and for everybody. I'm taking a step back, taking it all in. I think tonight was great, seeing a lot of the stuff I hadn't seen over the weekends. So it's just nice to have the time to spend with you guys between Friday and tonight. Jimmy, I'm sitting here with a Yingling lager. I paired that with RFR tonight.
Oh, nice. Me and Peter did an entire Star Wars Q&A.
We did a beer pairing.
Well, Peter, I'm going to give you a plug. We did an entire RFR Q&A on Patreon where Peter paired Star Wars films with specific brews. And he sent me a package of all of those beers, and we sipped them and discussed each film. And it was the most fascinating analysis, and it just like unique. I'll say unique. It was just like a one of a kind analysis.
That sounds awesome.
Unique is kind of
awesome.
a
What a great
word you
idea.
use when you can't really think of a better word to use, but that's what it was. It was, for me, somebody who's spoken so much about Star Wars for 40 something years, and it's now behind a microphone once, twice, 3, 4 times a week. Yeah. To present me with like a real new way of evaluating Star Wars films with beer makes it even better. So yeah, great job, Peter. That's one of my all-time.
Jimmy, we got to line up part 2. I think the demand's there that we finish it out and do the sequel trilogy. Jason, you're more than welcome if you want to come along for a ride.
I'll tell you what, that's awfully tempting. I don't want to cost you more money. Now you're having to send 2 packages.
Listen, you want this? Tell Jimmy. I'll send it out. We'll figure it all out. But either way, I just want to say thanks, guys. I'm looking forward to everything that's coming down the pike.
Thank you,
always,
man.
Love the show. Love you guys. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all you do in the chat. You're always there. You're super reliable. And I know a lot of people in the chat, they look to you and keep the conversation moving, keep it friendly. And we appreciate it very much. Peter's one of those that you call, like, he has no formal authority in the chat because he doesn't need it. He's got moral authority. Everybody, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't need it. No, he's Peter. And we don't need to deputize him or anything. He just, he brings out the best in you.
He's just, he's like a fight in an NHL game, Sometimes the refs just step back and let the players be their own police, That's Peter Beiser. He's like an NHL fight in the chats.
All right, we got Marty from Georgia.
Marty.
A Patreon member. Hey, Marty, how are you?
Chup, fellas.
Chup, buddy.
Hey.
Doing great, guys.
Good.
This has been awesome. I haven't been able to follow too much of the news, but I've seen the YouTube pop-ups on my suggested page, and man, there's just a lot that I'm going to catch up on, but I have just so appreciated you guys doing all the legwork so I don't got to go digging for
yeah, right. We watch it so you don't have
news.
to.
And who would have known I would have gotten a Grand Admiral Thrawn impression, a Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, God, there was another one that you guys did tonight. I was like, wow, these are wonderful. So, yeah.
No extra charge for those, buddy.
I was just waiting for Liam Neeson to make an appearance, but
that'll cost extra.
It's definitely been awesome. All right. You're talking to a teacher. Don't press your luck on that one.
Yeah.
I've definitely appreciated all the coverage on Ahsoka because I think that's the one I'm most excited for. Just loving Thrawn, reading the books, the new canon books, not the old ones. I know I need to read Heir to the Empire, but just very excited for the future of Star Wars. And I relate to the last caller when he talked about getting whiplash because I'm so sick of these very plot Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
And then just, nope, we're going to go see Lizzo and Jack Black. So I'm really tired of that. So this was just a very big breath of fresh air for my fandom. So very excited for the future.
Well, that's great. Now, look, the one thing we have to keep in mind is that whether it be the Clone Wars, whether it be Rebels, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, they all have filler episodes and they all send us places that we might not would rather not go. So Ahsoka may not be immune to this, right? So we're going to have to assume that there's going to be diversions during that series as well. But you know what? Like we said, you take them one at a time. It's one of the reasons why we do these after shows. And if we don't like this episode, maybe we'll like the next one. But I think you got a great attitude and great way you're looking at this stuff.
Yeah, appreciate it very much. This has been awesome. I'm fixing to go to bed soon, but thank you guys for all you do and all the hard work you guys put in for this awesome community. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Thanks,
You're the
Marty.
best. Are
Very
you kidding
kind.
me? Hey, a little tidbit information about the Ahsoka series.
Yes.
From what I'm led to understand, it's going to be the length of the season will be similar to that of Mandalorian, 8 episodes.
Okay.
And the length of the episodes will be similar to that of Mandalorian in the 35 to 45 minute range. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, so we should expect probably a similar pacing to to Ahsoka that we have with Mando. Yeah.
Right. Which is fine. If we're talking the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian specifically, yeah, bring it. But the Ahsoka show is going to be I think it's going to be like steeped in more than just character stuff. It's going to really address some big Force issues, Force revelations, similar to the Mortis trilogy. Similar to, I would say the World Between Worlds, but I still hesitate because I don't find that much depth in the World Between Worlds. I've always struggled with the Force being a place you can go to. So I hope the Ahsoka series gives me a little bit more substance and a little more foundation for that concept itself, because I'm open-minded to it. But just as it's been presented to us so far, it leaves me a little frustrated. So I'm really hoping the Ahsoka series will flesh that out a little bit better for my own mental sake.
All right, we've got John, Patreon member from LA, joining us. Hey, John.
Hey, boys. How you doing?
Doing great.
Hey, John.
Excellent. Excellent. Listen, I've got a question for you. How many celebrations have you guys been to?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, I started going to Star Wars Celebration in 2002 in Indianapolis. I would have loved to have gone to the initial one in Denver, but it was 1999. Not only was the Phantom Menace due in May, but so was my wife. And the idea of traveling for Star Wars, traveling anywhere for Star Wars, was a very foreign type of concept to me. It wasn't until things really opened up on the internet and the world became so much smaller that we could go to places like LA or Anaheim or Orlando. Yeah, LA was there too, and hang out with people we meet on the internet. And now it's a stronger thing than ever. So I went to every stateside celebration since the initial, the second one. And then I did go to one overseas in Japan in 2008. I have a lot to say about the convention going to Japan next.
That's why I'm calling. That's why I'm calling. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's exactly it.
And then Jason's been to all
well,
of them.
Jason, how about you? How many have you been to?
I've been to all of the domestic ones since Celebration 3.
Yeah. I've never been to a long.
Once they stopped numbering them, I lose track. I don't remember the years, but 3, 4, 5, 6, and then all of the other ones. So yeah.
Well, right on. I mean, I have to. The reason I ask is because last year, obviously being in LA and Anaheim, it was my first celebration, and I owe it to you guys because I actually came, initially for the bash, which was a fantastic party. It was a great night. I don't know how wonderful of a morning it was.
Yeah. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, the rooftop bash was absolutely crazy. So much fun. And I went the first couple of days, and I didn't go the last couple of days thinking, this is where they're going to hold it every year. Of course, this is where they're going to hold it.
Yeah.
Then they announced it's in London 10 months later. And I'm like, so bummed out. And since then, I actually started dating a girl who's a huge Star Wars fan. So we were hoping to go together. And, we were watching all weekend, super excited. And, when they announced that it's in Japan, I was like, whoa, that's far, but that's doable. And then they said 25. I mean, do they normally take 2 years off? What was your initial reaction when you saw that it was 2 years from now?
I was surprised.
I mean, that's got to.
I was surprised that I'm not surprised that they're doing one in Japan. I thought that they would do that in 24 and then bring it back to the States in 25 because that's the year that we're getting Star Wars back in the movie theaters. And I thought that they would want to do that domestically here in the States, but that's not the case. I mean, Mac and I were talking about just some of the logistic things that make it challenging. And I certainly don't mean to be, unfair or unthinking of our friends and Star Wars fans in Japan. But when you think about this being, largely sort of a Western franchise, it has its fans all over the world. But just things like doing the live stream is going to be challenging because you have to have the translators and all of that. Maybe they'll do something with subtitles that could make things quicker. But Mac, you were there at Star Wars Celebration Japan, the first one, and that did slow down the conversation for everybody because if you don't speak English, you're waiting for the Japanese translation, and if you speak English, you're waiting for the English translation of the question and all of that. So do you remember that being a little bit of a challenge?
A little bit of a challenge. It was very interesting because Mark Hamill, like number one, the first thing that struck me is that the Japanese people are very quiet when you're in like a convention center situation, like in a panel room. I mean, the amount of attention, intense focus that the audience has for everything that's going on stage is really so impressive. But what would happen during these shows is everything would need to be interpreted into Japanese because it was largely a Japanese audience. There were not many English-speaking people at this convention. I want to make that very clear. It was 85% local Japanese fans, like some of the most passionate fans in the world. But there's a language barrier there when it comes to all of the creatives who work on Star Wars and all of the fans who want to travel to a show like this. So we'd be sitting in the panels, me and Danny Logan, and Mark Hamill would make a joke, and there'd be 1,000 people in there, and the only people laughing is me and Logan. And then Mark would finish talking, and then the guy they had, the interpreter for Celebration Japan, was very much like he wanted the spotlight. It was almost as if all the Star Wars stuff was interrupting his show. He was wearing I'm serious. He was wearing like this bright white suit the whole time.
Was it Anthony Daniels?
This guy, yeah, he was and he was not. I don't believe he was a Japanese citizen. I mean, I should say citizen, but he wasn't a Japanese person. You know, I think he was European or he could have been American, you know, but he spoke perfect Japanese, my God. And so he would translate Mark's joke, and it would take twice the time for him to translate the joke as it took Mark to tell it. So Mark would tell the joke, me and Logan would laugh, and the place would be silent. And then a minute would go by, and then some people would start laughing, but not everyone, because something gets lost in the translation with the joke. It's like, oh my God, it's going on all weekend long. And so I found it to be a little frustrating, actually. I'm not sour grapes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so happy that the fans in Japan get another celebration. I loved going to Star Wars Celebration Japan in 2008, but my experience was different than your regular convention goer. I was working at the con. I was there with official picks. I was there for the podcast. I was working, and I had all access. So I'm a very poor guy to ask about what the typical fan experience is.
You also didn't have much time to prepare, as I recall, that you were sort of called to duty a week or two before you had to leave.
It was a quick turnaround. And so I'm so happy they're getting it.
Well, let me ask you guys. Well, I wanted to ask you guys something real quick. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys keeping me on the call this long. You know, I don't know if it's, you never forget your first time. And last year, to me, and I'm sure it was as a result of being my first time, but it felt magical. You know, even the weather was perfect. And it feels like Southern California, because of the, its proxemics to the entertainment industry, everyone was there. There was so much content to announce. We'd all just got out of lockdown, and the energy level was fever pitch. I mean, I've watched the StarWars.com stage, Ewan and Hayden, when he, this is where the fun begins. And I was in that room, and that room went crackers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a genuine, roar. And I'm not sure this year that I felt that way watching it. I don't know if it was just because it was so soon. It was 10 months later. I mean, is it fatigue? Why are they taking that year off with all this new content coming out to promote? What are your thoughts on last year versus this year, and why it is they're taking an additional year in between?
Thanks for the call, John. Appreciate it.
I certainly saw a lot more complaints about the Celebration London show than I did for the Anaheim show. And I noted a lot of things happening. The complaints were very similar. It was oversold. It was too crowded. It was too hot in the convention center. And there just wasn't simply enough to do. There was limited vending compared to Anaheim. You didn't have any props exhibits. Anaheim was off the charts as far as all that goes. And I'm sure like so many Star Wars fans went out there and had the time of their lives, you know. I mean, there's an energy that can't be replicated from these shows, no matter if they are less than what we saw at Anaheim last year. I can't really personally comment on that. I can only talk about the things I see people reporting online. I've talked to a few people who are actually at the show, and they all say the same thing. Much smaller, much less to do, but still fun. In Japan, here's the things I just a few observations I made in Japan. It was a very limited number of dealers on the show floor. It was almost like a very tiny garage sale. You know, it was that limited. It really was. Everything was in a big room, and it's going back to the same convention center in Chiba that the show was at in 2008. Everything was in just one big
I'm sorry,
room.
did you say it's the same venue?
Same venue, yes.
Same venue. Okay, all right.
I forget the name of it, but it's in Chiba, which is like a suburb of Tokyo. Everything's in a big room, and it was all like curtained off, black curtains, you know, pipe and drape, and it was like to make portions to separate one stage from the other. It was a bajillion degrees in the convention center. I just gotta say that. But I mean, I'm from Chicago, so anything over like 80 degrees, I'm sweating bullets. But it was a lot, very hot in there. It was a limited number of panels, probably the smallest turnout for any Star Wars celebration. It's 16,000 to 17,000. And that was very noticeable. Could it be more heavily attended next in 2025 with the hype for the film in full swing? Yes, of course. But is there enough of a fan base in Japan to make the attendance larger? And I'm not so sure, because I looked at the box office numbers for The Rise of Skywalker. In Japan, it made $60 million. Compare that to the U.S. box office of $500 million plus.
Yeah.
So it's a big difference. The concentration of diehard fans that would attend a Star Wars con in Japan is a tiny fraction compared to who would go to a show in the United States. And also, because of the limitations of Japan being Japan, and everything has to be shipped overseas, that provides a lot of limitations. I think the idea of a live streaming stage in Japan it'll never happen because of the interpretation that needs to go on. Yeah. Everything needs to be interpreted for the audience. And so that might limit the possibilities to do live streaming stages, as we've been seeing in the last few conventions over since 2015. They've had that element. I don't see how they can pull that off. It's going to be very difficult. You know, and I'm like putting two and two together, and I'm like, this is definitely the next Star Wars convention. It's definitely happening in Japan in 2025. But, friends, with the next Star Wars film hitting silver screens at the end of 2025 in December, there might be space for a late summer Star Wars celebration in the U.S. 2 celebrations in 1 year.
Whoa!
I see. Now there's restrictions.
Are you spreading rumors again?
No, I'm just saying that there's room for something like that.
Yeah.
However, if that is to be the case, they will need to announce the U.S. Star Wars celebration for 2025 relatively soon, before tickets go on sale for Japan. So people stateside can say, well, I don't have to spend all that money to go to Japan because there's going to be one here for U.S. citizens. So, I mean, I think there's possibility that could happen. But I think
Disney thinks that they can push some of this demand for events like Star Wars Celebration into D23?
Yes. Well, it gives them a spot to make their big whoop-de-doo announcements, which we know they love to do. I mean, the whole convention is based on that concept alone. Now, for us as fans, we go to it for the community And some fans go to it to see celebrities, They lose their mind over seeing celebrities. I, unfortunately, am too calloused and jaded to get excited to see anybody walk in a room at this point in time, but unless it's George Lucas himself,
I could see Jimmy Mack going bananas for a Harry Ford walking into the room.
I think I've been in rooms where Harry Ford has walked in, and
yeah, where was I?
Let me think about that. That's a good. Would I lose my mind if Harrison Ford walked in? That's an interesting.
He walked you through that door right behind you right now, Harrison
Ford.
Ford.
You telling me? You would see us get intimate on camera if that happened.
All right, let's go to Blake. Blake is calling from. I don't know where Blake is calling from, but I know he's a Patreon. Hey, Blake.
Hey guys, chut,
chut, buddy.
Chut.
Hey, can we have two Blakes on the same show? We're not going to, tear a whole universe somewhere.
I think it's happened before. And the space-time continuum
before I kept talking. I didn't want to jeopardize everybody.
That's okay. Everybody has their favorite Blake. I won't tell you who mine is.
Yeah. The younger Blake is the best one. I know. I'm trying to catch up to him. I know. So out of all the announcements, I'm going to say I'm not excited for 2 and excited for 1, lukewarm on the rest. So the one I'm excited for is Bad Batch Season 3.
Okay.
Just because it's got a proven record. We've talked about it. I've called it the show over the last 2 seasons. Hit or miss, but for the most part, it's been a good story. The 2 things I'm not excited for, everything else in the middle, I'm okay with. I'm just going to wait and see. But the Acolyte, just after watching some of the actors talk about Star Wars, these guys don't know what they're talking about when it comes to Star Wars. And with 4 episodes, I think they said they got 4 episodes in the bag already.
Yeah,
so
I heard
think
that.
That's more of a reflection on the writing than it is them.
I think it felt all over the place. I am with you on that, Blake. I thought that the comments that I heard and read were a little all over the place. There was a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk about emotion. I cried.
Yeah.
Oh, I was crying when this happened.
Yeah.
Oh, I cried when that happened. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't really get, as we say here on the show, meat on the bone when it came to the Acolyte. It was a lot of emotion, not a lot of.
It just screams modern Hollywood making crap. That's all it screams to me. So that one I don't care about. But Skeleton Crew, the Ahsoka show looks good. But as far as the movies go, 2 out of the 3 I'm excited for. But the one I wanted to talk to you guys about was the one with Rey, because I think no matter where you stand on Star Wars nowadays, like that's the one that's got everyone kind of scratching their head, like what are they doing here? It's just kind of strange. Bringing the sequel, Rey and the story, all that back after the very divisive sequels is kind of weird to me. And I heard FJ on the show there the other night. I love FJ, but I totally disagree from my point of view, where I go from someone who goes to a lot of cons and has a lot of friends with kids from 10 years old to 21 years old. Like, I don't see the want for these young people to see a Rey in a movie. And if for people like me, like I personally, I did not like the sequels. I'll just say it. And I think for as divisive as they were, to bring back something that's so divisive for adult fans is kind of head scratching. But what I wanted to ask you guys was, I live in Florida. I live about an hour and some change from Orlando. I don't have a Disney pass anymore. I used to go, pretty regularly. I go maybe once a year now. But, the Disney parks right now is the bread and butter of Disney financially.
Yeah.
Entertainment-wise, look, they're not doing so hot. Like there's no lying about it. I mean, their stock's going down. Entertainment-wise, they've lost 2 million subscribers on Disney Plus. They have they lost a couple $2 billion on the entertainment side. They've had a couple flops last year, and it's not looking much better this year. Universal giving a big run for their money. So I'm wondering if maybe the not the whole reason, but a part of the reason for bringing Ray back was, they got this Galaxy's Edge in both parks in California and in here in Orlando, and I wonder if they got the bigger ride here, the Rise of the Resistance, which is solely themed on the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Almost all the characters that got roaming around are sequel trilogy themed.
Yeah, it's first order stuff.
Theme parks weigh? Yeah, exactly. So how much do the theme parks weigh into their decisions on who's going to be in the next movie? Because entertainment wise, yes, they need to make a profit, but let's face it, the theme parks are the bread and butter, like I said. So I just want to get your guys' take. I mean, there's no rumors on this. There's no.
I will tell you. I won't say who.
But what do you guys think,
Blake? I won't say who. Thanks for the call. I won't say who, but I will tell you that a member of our very own Jedi Council raised this exact issue that you're talking about. That the Rey movie could very well, the decision could be motivated, I mean, perhaps not solely, but certainly some collateral benefit they hope to gain is beefing up attendance to the parks and Galaxy's Edge and embracing that post-original trilogy era and all of that. I don't know. I feel like Galaxy's Edge, they actually had a nice panel, the Disney team, the Imagineers or whomever that was. They were talking about the hotel. They were talking about the cruise ships. They were talking about Galaxy's Edge, both locations. They actually had the Mandalorian, Din Djarin come out with Grogu, the version that you see when you're at the parks. I think that there's enough opportunity for them to just sort of float around a bit in terms of the characters that walk out there. I think when you look at sort of the rank and file Star Wars fans that are showing up there, for the most part, I don't think they're necessarily looking for canonical symmetry, with the characters that they see. So it's a pretty big canvas for characters to show up. So I don't know if there's any great strategic advantage. My thought is that this is their Star Wars. The sequel trilogy, at the end of the day, is Disney's biggest contribution to Star Wars canon, at least in terms of impact. And I just don't see them tucking tail and running away. I think they're going to ride it. I really think they see this as, they've seen it since the beginning, Jim, as this is the future of Star Wars, these characters and this part of the galaxy.
And I think that even in the ivory towers at Lucasfilm and Disney, that when they self-evaluate the job they did with the sequel trilogy, I think even they see the big problems that exist. As a matter of fact, I know they did. Why do you think they let The Rise of Skywalker come and go without hardly any merchandise? It was like, get that thing in and out of the theaters so we could focus on the Disney Plus streaming series. That was the vibe I was getting from Disney and Lucasfilm when The Rise of Skywalker was released. Let's just get this sequel trilogy over with. And if that is the truth, then maybe they might be looking at it saying, hey, you know what? This is solid conceptually, and Daisy Ridley is very likable. We should take a step back into these waters and swim proficiently for a change. They were under the gun when it came to the production of the sequel trilogy.
Multiple times.
Bob Iger announcing release dates the day he signs the paper with George Lucas. Putting the creatives under the gun from day one. This is a different situation now. There's been some breathing room. There's been time to look back and evaluate and consider the things that went right and the things that went wrong. And take a mulligan on the sequel trilogy and bring Rey back in a single film that could be the foundation for many films to follow, and put a lot of thought into it. Don't put the pressure so much on the creatives like they had been. Damon Lindelof might be whistling a different tune, but he's come and gone. It depends on Stephen Wright now. What kind of script can he deliver? Is it a script that works well with the director? Is it a script that works well with the producers? Is it a script that works well with Daisy Ridley? I mean, these are all these moving parts that are involved. But again, I still have faith in the project. I think that they have a real solid idea of where to go with it. And this is make or break time. If this thing flops, if this thing fails to get made, if this thing delivers substandard storytelling that doesn't ignite the box office, there's going to be big changes made. Big changes made at Lucasfilm. And I don't need to get into the specifics. I'll let you guys just speculate on your own. But I think the rubber is hitting the road here as far as Star Wars and its lack of presence in the cinematic playing field. You can't use the COVID excuse anymore. That ship is sailed, pal, and everyone knows it. So let's work without the restrictions of the pandemic. Let's find a solid plan and execute it after we have it together and make it happen. Now, they've not committed on the 2025 film. Most people think the arrows are pointing toward the Rey thing. But what if the Mangold thing suddenly gets a huge head of steam and starts plowing forward, and Stephen is, what's his name?
Stephen Knight.
Stephen Knight. He's sitting there twiddling his thumbs. He can't think of a good idea. I mean, then maybe they'll fast track that film into first place. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy did leave that as a possibility in one of the interviews.
I think the smart money's on the Rey film being the next one that gets released in 2025. But, think of some of the opportunities, though, of characters and things that we could see in a Rey film. We could see the Falcon again. We could see the droids. We could see R2 and 3PO. We could see Chewbacca again. And look, I've had my beefs with the sequel trilogy, but Rey's not at the top of the list of those beefs. And I go back to the potential that those characters, Finn and Rey, showed with the Force Awakens, and they had off the charts chemistry. They extraordinarily likable, both of them. And so, if you said, well, is Rey going to make or break the film? I think that Rey is probably one of the best things about the Star Wars sequels, to be honest. Yeah, I had issues with her pedigree in terms of training and things like that, and it felt a little fast-tracked. But as far as the character and her performance and all of that, I was with her on that whole journey. I mean, I felt I wasn't numbed out watching Daisy Ridley as Rey. I enjoyed it, and I had a lot of affinity that built up for it. The payoffs and the things that didn't work, I think were well far and above Daisy Ridley as Rey. So that's not the biggest crime. That's for sure.
She's super likable. You want to root for a character Daisy Ridley's playing. And she has one of the best John Williams theme that was developed in all of the sequels. That's a good piece of music. And so all of these little elements, you got the physical presence of Daisy Ridley. She pulls off the physical things her character needs to do pretty well. I mean, it's always hard to tell with stunt people in CGI, but, she seems believable to me in the role as someone who could swing around that staff and smack someone in the head. Why not? And then she's got the oxygen, the music, which will be heavily incorporated in this next film. Will we see Finn? Will we see Poe? Will we see Rose? Sweet, sweet Rose. You love her. You know you do. But she could show up. I mean, they might get the whole gang back together. We'll see.
All right, we got Eric from Phoenix joining us. He's a Patreon member and a well-known name and voice here on the after shows. Hello, Eric.
Hey, guys. Hey.
Hey.
I've got two questions for you. But before I give you the question, Jimmy, do you got a pen and a piece of paper? So by my calculations, you owe $1,681.40 for your late fees if you checked your book out March 16th, 1977, and it was 10 cents per day. So I'm just trying to help you out. $1,681.40. So there you go.
From my cold, dead hand. They will never get this back from me, nor will they get my money.
All right, my two questions. So first question is, do you guys think we will get any original trilogy characters? When I say original trilogy characters, I'm talking about Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, R2-D2, C-3PO, or Lando in Andor, in the Ahsoka series, or in the Mandalorian movie? That's my first question. Do you guys think we'll see that?
The third option.
Mando movie. Absolutely, I agree.
We'll see the deep fakes show up in the film. Yeah.
Yes. Maybe all three.
Mark it down. 6 years from now, we'll be referring to this conversation.
Yeah, and I would 100% agree with you, and that's where my head went. It, to me, makes a ton of sense, and it would be a mess if they didn't do it. And then my second question is on that same note, and I know, Jimmy, I'm not looking for the Star Wars we're not getting. I'm thinking down the road. Do you think come next year we have announcements on Star Wars series featuring the original trilogy characters during the time period after Jedi, or between Empire and Jedi, or between Star Wars and Empire? That's my last question. I think we're going to get something, and I think it's plausible and doable. Am I excited about it? I'm cautiously optimistic if done right. I mean, they handled Luke very well in The Mandalorian, so if they can do something like that with the original characters, I think it's great. And I think it'd be a great way to see some of their adventures. So appreciate taking my call, guys.
Sure.
Hey, thanks, Eric. I'll say this about original characters, as far as whether it be live action, animated, some sort of hybrid, whatever. There's only one guy out there as a creative in Star Wars that I want touching the legacy characters, and that's Dave Filoni. Period.
Right.
And I maybe we'll let Jon Favreau help him out. Maybe. But I'm just saying Dave Filoni is the only guy of this crop that I want touching those characters from here on out.
Well, legacy characters, I'll tell you this. I would love to see a Tony Gilroy fused Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine. I can only imagine some of the stuff Gilroy could have that guy spitting out. But Tony bases his writing in a very realistic way. I mean, he's got both feet on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And Palpatine seems to be kind of mystic and he's a wizard. And I don't know if Tony Gilroy's writing would allow him to fuel a character like that. I'm just saying, I think it could be kind of interesting. Maybe the Palpatine that gets presented to the general public, the one who's covering up all of his Sithiness. It would be interesting to see, that is, of course, if Palpatine even makes himself known to the public after he becomes emperor. For most accounts, I've always read that he shut himself off from the populace and just let all the bureaucrats control everything. He didn't care about that stuff. He just, he just wanted to control them, and hide away and do all of his Sithy experiments, unfettered with the burden of political office. But so that would be interesting if there was a public face of Emperor Palpatine. It would be interesting to see Gilroy do it. I don't think we'll even see any more deep fake stuff going on in Star Wars until that Filoni film 5 years from now. Can you wait that long? I've heard rumors about deep fake characters appearing in shorts on Disney Plus, and that might be a place to sort of get the fan base used to seeing those characters come back
and to test out the technology a bit.
Test it out,
right?
Or maybe they've already considered their testing phase is come and gone with the appearance of Luke in Mandalorian, the appearance of Leia in Rogue One, the appearance of Tarkin in Rogue One. I mean, maybe that was their testing ground, and now they're ready to do some real magic in the next Star Wars film to be directed by Dave Filoni. So, but again, we're 5, 6, maybe even 7 years away from that. Mandalorian and Ahsoka series have to play themselves out before we see the Filoni film. So I think we'll be seeing the.
I mean, Dave said that it's not necessarily an ending. It's
right.
It's an event, and I would say a big event, maybe a culmination. But he was specific to say not necessarily an ending. But Jax from Utah, not that Jax, this Jax from Utah. No, that was Jackson. He wants to talk about Rey in the Filoni movie. What? Thanks for joining us, Jax.
Yeah, hello there.
Hello.
I wanted to just pick up on some of the things that you already have been discussing with the past couple callers, but to get your thoughts on, I would agree that we'll probably see some of that face swapping technology in the Filoni film. And a big part of that, I would think, is the fact that going into the sequel trilogy, one of the things you'd think would be simplest, or at least on the top of their list, was, getting Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford in a room together. Alas, spilled milk, they weren't able to do that.
Right.
But with this technology...
By the way, I just have to throw this out. Hold on, I just got to throw it out. For you Star Trek fans that are watching Picard, they had the most fantastically constructed reunion of those original cast members, to the point where the last episode so far resolved with them all in the briefing room together again. It was just so elegantly done.
It took 7 episodes to get there. It took 7 episodes to get there. The moment was rather brief, maybe a 5-minute scene of them all sitting around a table, but it was more than enough to fulfill me as a fan of that franchise, going back to when The Next Generation originally debuted in the late 80s. And they did it right. They did it right. And they bring characters back, these legacy characters, without being burdened by the weight of them stealing the spotlight from your precious new characters that nobody gives a rat's ass about. How Disney lost this focus. There was like some sort of weird epidemic running through Hollywood in the mid 2010s, where it's just like people just didn't know how to tell stories anymore with these legacy characters. That's all we wanted. 5 minutes. That's all it takes.
All it takes.
Yeah,
that's all it takes.
I agree, and I think that's probably, or at least if I was there, I'd be saying, okay, that's got to be top of our list. We just got to make that happen, and it didn't come in the way that we probably should have done it, but we got to make it happen. And then on the other side of it, prior to
J.J. Abrams and the screenwriters that were associated with The Force Awakens, they pussied out and got intimidated by using these core characters, these legacy characters. That's the only, I'm sorry if that sounds a little harsh, but they pussied out. They really did. And they have to live with that, all of them, for the rest of their damn lives. Wimps.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's one of the hardest things to grapple with. Is you can have problems with the story and where certain characters ended up and the new characters, but the very simple formula of just getting those three with Chewbacca and R2 and 3PO in a room together, they couldn't even do that. That was the most basic element. But anyway, then it would seem to me, that Filoni film is set before the sequel trilogy. The Rey film is set after the sequel trilogy, 15 years after. And I'm sort of getting this impression that they're going to try to do a little cleanup of the bad press and feelings that they have engendered with the sequels.
See, everybody's talking about this, Jax. Even young Blake. Everyone's talking about that.
I heard the case. Yeah.
That this Ahsoka series and the World Between Worlds, and that Dave Filoni has this mandate, if not mandate from on high, self-directed, to right the wrongs of the sequel trilogy, to change the timeline, to fix the sequels. I don't know that is. I just don't see any evidence of that.
And I would agree. I don't think it's going to be a full scale rehaul.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is only that we might get smaller moments, like that moment with Luke and Leia and Han reunited.
Oh, now that stuff, yes, yes.
You might get
right.
Not necessarily a total flipping of the script, and
I hear you.
Trilogy actually appeared in Marvel
to give us that moment,
that's not where we are.
To give us those moments that we were essentially robbed of, really, as fans. That's the way I look at it. I think.
Yeah, and I
think you're right.
Well, and I think in the Rey thing too. I mean, I always liked her character, but she was always a bit thin. She was always a bit boring.
Right. Let's give Rey some meat.
And
literally and figuratively.
Give her some meat, while also simultaneously she gets to reflect back upon through the character. We can see her reflect back upon some of the mistakes that were made, and try to avoid some of the pitfalls. You could have that character providing a kind of meta commentary in a very subtle way that could show that, hey, we hear you. Here's what we're not gonna get rid of it. They are what they are. But we're gonna try to do some small things to sort of bookend the sequel trilogy and hopefully make fans feel a little more comfortable. I don't know that that's what they'll do. I'm just kind of the sense I'm getting in this. And I guess my question would be, and do we want them to? If they
Oh, sorry. Jax, I'm sorry, buddy.
No, he's right. Do we want them to?
I had an itchy trigger finger. I truly did not mean to let you go that quickly, but I think we understand where you were going. Do we want them to? I say absolutely. And this is coming from somebody who is not a huge detractor of the prequels. I never had the same allergy to them that some in my generation had. But I loved what the Clone Wars did provide to the prequels. I loved the additional context. I especially love the fact that we got the heroic Anakin Skywalker that we had sort of dreamed of, thought of. So I am there for it. If Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau through Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 2 or whatever it might be, if they do it, and Mandalorian, if they can provide the same kind of extra context going into the sequels as the Clone Wars did with the prequels, I'm all for it. 1,000%.
I think that's the goal. I mean, to retroactively fill in the glaring plot holes and weaknesses in the
they're already doing it. Yeah.
They're already doing it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They've been amping that up at least. But we still haven't gotten anything really satisfying. We've gotten teases. They need to commit a little bit more, and maybe the Rey movie will be that commitment. The other thing is the reunion of the legacy characters. Now that technology makes it something that can happen, that would require Lucasfilm to walk back the idea of creating a CGI Leia, which is something Kathleen Kennedy said they would not do following her death in late 2016. This is right on the heels when they actually did have
Right.
a CGI Leia in Rogue One, but Carrie was still alive at that point. So I think that the shock of her passing may have instilled certain policies over there at Lucasfilm that they might be a little more flexible about nowadays, now that the sting of her shocking death has I wouldn't say worn off, but we've all kind of become used to the idea that poor Carrie ain't around no more.
Yeah.
And maybe it might be time to move forward with a Princess Leia. We did have young Leia in Kenobi, so it provides a little more expansion of that role, but they would have to walk back. Kathleen Kennedy said it herself. We will not be recreating Carrie Fisher via CGI. And
well,
of
they've
course,
said a lot of things, and then they've gone the other way. So,
but that could be something that comes from maybe Carrie's family.
Possibly.
Maybe Carrie's family doesn't want to see that. And so that's a roadblock that needs to be worked around.
Time does heal wounds like that.
Yes.
And money helps too.
Yes. And the legacy of Carrie Fisher, you know, that would be kind of an honorable tribute to her, wouldn't it? To bring back Leia and it looks like Carrie. I mean, that's just the direction that filmmaking is going in anyway, where nobody is ever going to actually leave Hollywood. I mean, we'll be seeing John Wayne movies in like 30 years from now or something. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's happening.
It's happening. Something else that's happening is Mariana, one of our favorites from Florida. Hello, Mariana.
Hey guys, chut. How's it going?
Chut. It's going great. Going great.
You got some warm fuzzies about Hayden Christensen you want to share with us? I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I know Mariana, so I'm just guessing.
No. Yeah, actually, I wanted to call in before I get to my questions regarding the news we got out of Celebration and like the reactions and the state of the Star Wars fandom. I wanted to tell you that my meeting with Hayden and Rosario at MegaCon was a success.
A success. Excellent. Now, wait a minute. Did you meet with them separately or together?
I met with them separately.
Okay.
I met with them. So I took my photo with Rosario Dawson. She was so sweet, and I was repping RFR the whole weekend.
Oh,
so
bless you. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. So I got to take a photo with her, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm meeting live action Ahsoka!" And she laughed, and she gave me a hug, and then she signed my drawing of Ahsoka that I drew a couple of years back. Hayden signed the same sketchbook a few years back. Now I'm hoping to get both Ashley and Matt to sign those drawings so I can have both incarnations of those
very
characters.
cool. Yeah. Animated and that's awesome. So how was Hayden on the how many times have you met Hayden now?
This would have been my second time meeting him. So what happened was that, and I want to thank my mom because we had ADA passes because I told you, both my brother and I are on the autism spectrum, and crowds like that are just so insane and very, very overstimulating.
Yeah.
And we get anxiety and very overwhelmed very quickly. So my mom and I were able to advocate for me to go to the front of the line with the other ADA people and the VIP. So we were some in the 4:30 slot to meet him for the photo ops. And so my interaction with him was that they specifically said, no handshakes, no hugs. And I was like, okay, I'll respect the rules. It wasn't a COVID thing. It was, I don't know. I think it was something else or like whatever. So then he goes in and the family ahead of me meets with him, takes the photo, and I'm standing on the side, really nervous. Then it comes my turn to take my picture with him. I just walk up and I'm like, hi, it's nice to see you again. And I was very sheepish, like I said, I was respecting the rules. And all of a sudden he opens his arms, gives me a hug, and I'm like, oh my God. And and then we take our photo. I was like, do you remember me from Miami, Florida? You saw my drawing. I told you I had a crush on you. And he was like, I see a lot of people. So he was like, never mind.
He's not going to lie to you. I like that. He's not going to lie to you. He's going to, I do see a lot of people, but I respect that.
Yeah. No, it's true. Yeah. So it was great. And then he gave me another hug before I left.
Oh.
So I hugged him twice. So that was the best thing. And I bumped into a friend of his who is also a filmmaker, and I think knew him through a mutual friend. And they've been like producing films together.
Uh-huh.
And he told me that he will mention RFR to Hayden because he and I chatted a few years ago during the early days of the pandemic. And I mentioned RFR to him, and I think now I was able to mention, you got to tell him to listen to this podcast, and he's like, I'll mention it to him. So
yeah, Hayden Christensen needs to be listening to RFR. There's no question about it. We could have him on. I'd love to have him on. Maybe we could do a commentary on one of the Clone Wars episodes. I know he's been watching a lot of Clone Wars these days, catching up with what's going on with his character, Anakin Skywalker. I love that guy. He had a really great moment at Celebration Europe where he was out on the stage. And yeah, he really did. They asked him, what has been the best part about playing Anakin Skywalker through the years? And he just said this, referring to the crowd. And the crowd just went nuts. And, he didn't always have the easiest time. But the one thing I think, here's the thing about Star Wars fans, and even Lucasfilm doesn't understand this, is that sometimes the anger and the criticism comes from such a place of love and passion that it doesn't come from a place of hate. I can't speak for everybody, but it doesn't come from a place of hate. So even when you're critical, it's kind of, I've often likened this to a real family. I may have issues with my brother, and I can talk to my wife about my brother. I can talk to my mom about my brother. But if anybody outside of the family dare criticize my brother, we're going to have words. And I think that is very similar to the way Star Wars fans are, is that anybody, we can pick nits about the prequels and, this line or that line or whatever. But anybody outside the family, they better not say anything about Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker, none of that. And that's the thing that I think, that's the love I think that he feels when he's at these conventions and people are chanting, Hayden, Hayden. Not to mention the fact that so many of the prequel fans grew up, and that is their hero. That's their Anakin Skywalker. That's their Anakin Skywalker. And so I think it's great that he's feeling the love. But what else do you got for us? I know you said you had a question.
I did. 2 points. Well, first of all, I'm so excited for the Ahsoka series.
Yep.
I think the cast is incredible. They did and I am so happy that Lars Nicholson is playing Thrawn. And it's so cool to see those 2 new Dark Jedi, Balin and Shin, as like the yin and yang, and bringing more like the mystic of the Clone Wars and the continuation of the Rebel show. And I've been seeing some great reactions to it. But at the same time, there's also been some not very great reactions to like all the announcements. And like you said about criticizing Star Wars from a place of love, I get it. I've had my issues with it. I think it would be happier if Kathy leaves sooner or later. I've been very open about my criticisms about that. But I feel like that there's also been a point where I'm just like so burnt out by this constant fighting of like the shillers, and then there's the haters that constantly harp on, here's what I say this, openly rooting for Star Wars to fail.
Yep.
And I really, really hate that. Just for the sake of hoping that Kathy gets the boot, that this new movie crumbles, and that hopefully there'll be a change in leadership soon. And I get why they feel that way. I understand, but I feel like that it's just super counterproductive. And if not, it feels like those that constantly harp on like culture war and talking about modern Hollywood, I believe that has grown a little bit too extreme, not extreme, but like it's just super counterproductive.
Yeah, it's become really tedious and boring. For me, it's become very tedious and boring. I'll tell you what I gather from some of these people is they would much rather be right. That's what they really want. You know, they're gonna be prognosticating the firing of Kathleen Kennedy until someday maybe she is or she leaves, and they go, see, we told you her days were numbered. Yeah, you told us that 10 years ago. That's the issue. They so desperately want to be right, and in the process of that, I think some of these folks did start out as fans, and they might even consider themselves as fans, but they're so desperate in wanting to be right that I think they're losing their fandom, they're losing their passion, they're losing their love for the franchise. They only care about their own reputations, and that's about it.
Or it's all an act, and they fail to acknowledge when they actually like something. They sit at home, like in their basement alone. I can picture these guys. It's a folding metal chair. It's a TV on the floor. And then there's a single light bulb hanging down from a wire. And they're sitting there and they're watching the latest episodes of The Mandalorian, like over and over, going, oh my God, this is so great. And then they get in front of their webcam and they start saying, well, you know, it's been ruined forever. It's over with. I hate it all. But you know, in reality, they're sitting at home watching it and loving it. But what makes them money, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day with a lot of them.
Yeah, because I wanted to point that out because I feel like that's happening, what you guys mentioned with Picard Season 3. Everybody loves Picard Season 3, even the people that were critical of the first 2 seasons, even though I'm not a big Star Trek fan, but I've been hearing about this. And then there's like these people saying that you're complicit in destroying Gene Roddenberry's legacy if you still support Picard Season 3. And then I'm like, wait, so you're telling me that because I like some Disney Star Wars stuff, like Tales of the Jedi and Rebels and Clone Wars Season 7, that I'm complicit in helping destroy George Lucas's legacy? Give me a break.
You
just laugh at them. Take it all with a grain of salt.
That's exactly right.
You know,
you cannot take them seriously. You can't let them get under your skin. Love what you love. Enjoy what you enjoy. And we enjoy you, Mariana. Thank you very, very much.
That was a great call. That was a real call, you know? That was like, she was just letting it all flow right there.
She was. Here's a super chat from Charlie. He says, shout out Billy D, still turning up for the fans. Mac, you and I and the council were discussing Billy D's appearance at Star Wars Celebration London. And, you know, he looked like there were moments where he wasn't having the easiest time, but the Billy D charm was there. And then we kind of reminded ourselves that this guy's well up in his 80s. What is he, 83?
He's 86. He celebrated his birthday just last week. And when he was on stage on the panel, I really did get the impression that he did not want to be there, that they were forcing Billy D to get up on that stage, and he just wasn't feeling up for it. At 86 years old, I mean, there are all kind of factors that could be
the travel alone, just getting there.
It just might make him feel a little uncomfortable, and he might be getting toward the end of these public appearances because, you know, his arthritis could be flaring up or something. You know, those plane flights can, you know, kill you, and then the jet lag and all of that stuff. So I had the feeling that Billy D was up on stage and he did not want to be there. But then when they brought him out on the live streaming stage and he saw Christina Ariel sitting there, that old Billy D charm came back up to the surface.
He suddenly felt much better.
There were Billy D quotes of the week happening at that moment. Maybe we'll feature them on an upcoming episode. I was considering doing that tonight, but I knew we had so many other things to get to. But I mean, that's just the bottom line. He requires assistance moving around. He needs a cane. Yeah. He's needed a cane, and he's moved slowly as far as I've been observing him. And the first time I was in the same room with Billy D. Williams, that was 2007. And he's still sharp. He still has it. But even when Christina said, how you doing? How you doing, Billy D? He's like, I'm doing okay.
Yeah,
you know, you could just tell there's something, you know, probably physically that's making him feel a little uncomfortable, but he could still whip out the old smooth when he has to.
That's right. And he did. And yeah, well, she'd make me happy. She's fine. Nothing wrong with
The guy survived the Rebel Force Radio photo op in Chicago in 2019.
Oh, man.
He's easily got another decade under his belt coming up. So he's fine. He's, but it's those things, we saw Peter at a convention and then he passed away. Dave Prowse, Kenny Baker, these are legends that we grew up with. And unfortunately, Father Time catches up with all of us sooner or later. And so just, if Billy D is only given one word answers to Ming Na Wen, and he's not really feeling like he's just with it to you in the audience, just be happy you're seeing him up there.
That's right.
You're breathing the same air with Billy D at that convention center. That makes you instantly cooler than you were before you walked in the door.
Turtle Wars says Anthony Daniels auctioning off all of his C-3PO memorabilia later this year. That might be interesting to keep an eye on. I wasn't aware of that. Is that something he announced?
Well, he must have said something about it for Turtle Wars to know, unless Turtle Wars is like Anthony Daniels' best friend and they talk to each other on the phone all the time, which is something I dream about.
I saw Tyler. Tyler was nodding his head there. Tyler, do you know something we don't know?
Yeah, he mentioned that he's auctioning off all that stuff. It was on his live show appearance. He's walking around in that gold jacket,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I saw some of that. That was a long one. That was one of the longest interviews. He and Carboni have
they got a shtick
that they do. Yeah.
That got a little tiresome after a while. It even bordered on disrespectful, I think. Because when me and Jason talked to Anthony Daniels, we're Mr. Daniels, we always give him his props and it makes him feel comfortable. I didn't feel like Anthony was feeling that comfortable with the heavy-handed way the shtick was being applied at that situation. And I think maybe they should back off on that a little bit for future interviews. Carboni's got his thing. That's fine. But I don't know. It seemed like it was a little tired this time around.
All right. So we got a super chat here from Ferris84. Profit or loser? Which one heir to the Empire trilogy character do we see in the New Republic era and why? A. Saboth. B. Mara Jade. C. Peleon. Or D. Other. Jimmy Mack.
Well, I'd have to say C. Peleon because I think it's already been confirmed he will appear either at the in one of these last two episodes, or at least he'll be referenced in one of these last two episodes of The Mandalorian or in the Ahsoka series. I believe I heard he gets referenced in The Mandalorian. So one of these final two episodes. Of course, they screened that episode, the second to last one, the penultimate episode for season 3 was screened at Star Wars Celebration. And there are spoilers out there online, which I have avoided because I don't want it disrupting my my Wednesday morning buzz that I'm on every week. And I think I may have heard that though. That's like the one tidbit of information I may have heard about the last two episodes is that Peleon, who was Grand Admiral Thrawn's commanding officer of his Star Destroyer. I refer to it as a super Star Destroyer on our last live show, and somebody was like, "Oh, facepalm! How could you get that wrong?" It's like, shut up, nerd. This is a slip of the tongue. God, get over yourself. All right.
Turtle Wars is back. He says it's sad that we now live in a world where the Hasbro booth can't display a Slave Leia figure in the Jabba throne room diorama that they had. I hadn't heard that. If that is true, that is sad. She is an established and iconic look for an iconic character. To me, it takes nothing away from the character at all. And I think the treatment or the lack of treatment of Slave Leia or Hutt Slayer Leia or whatever you want to call her, I think is over the top ridiculous. And if Carrie Fisher were alive, she'd agree. I think. Sal B. Crum says, glad to hear that they know season 3 is the final for Bad Batch. I'm hopeful we'll get direction and substance that will push the plot forward every week and get away from the Mission of the Week episodes. Hashtag let Tech stay dead. Oh, my heart. There's going to be 16 episodes in season 3, I'm sure. And I'm sure that there will be episodes that will deviate from the strict core mythology. fear not. There will be episodes of the week in season 3 of The Bad Batch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, yeah. We'll be doing after shows like crazy. And I think it'll be a tighter format in season 3. I think because of the fact that the storytelling is ramping up to the finale, that every inch of real estate will be used to propel that story forward. I find it very unlikely we'll be getting those missions of the week, whatever you want to call them.
Adam says the Acolyte has teased prequel level lightsaber fights. Are you guys excited to see that type of choreography back in Star Wars? I wasn't looking at it like, ooh, that's prequel style. I think it's more modern style. I made the connection with the Matrix, where they kind of do the slow-mo thing. They did that with Rey. The slow-mo. I don't know. When I look at that, I don't see Ewan McGregor and Ray Park in The Phantom Menace when I see the thing from the Acolyte. That still hasn't been topped in my judgment.
Right. I was just going to bring that up. If you're dealing with talent of the likes of Ray Park, who, world-class martial artist, then that's one thing. But if you're just taking regular actors and using special effects to assist them with their martial artistry, like I know for a fact that as much as I love her, God, I can't believe I spaced out the name of the new Ahsoka actress.
Rosario Dawson.
I thought of it before you had to tell me. We've been on for over 3 hours now, so give me a brain fart, folks. Give me one brain fart. I ran out of beer. I mean, I got to pee. It's Rosario Dawson. I don't think she has a black belt in anything, so she's going to require editing, stunt people, possibly CGI, possibly wires or whatever to help her pull off what she needs to pull off. So that's vastly different than the approach Ray Park brought to it. It's vastly different than the approach Nick Gillard brought to training all the actors. Do we have a Nick Gillard in the house? That guy's only a genius when it comes to film fighting. I haven't heard much from Nick. He might be retired for all I know at this point. But
where is Nick
anybody
Gillard?
Still have his phone number? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, where is Nick Gillard? It's a good question. Nobody did it better.
I don't think so. Not when it came to saber dueling.
All right, Ford Jack and Stella says at the end of the Ahsoka trailer, Robot says, "Perhaps it is time to begin again." Is that a dig at the sequels and foreshadows resetting the timeline? What do you think, Mac? What does that line mean?
I assumed Ahsoka was doing some sort of dueling training or something, and Huang was just going to throw another challenge at her. But, I always think back to that first line of The Force Awakens when Max von Sydow said, yeah, this is going to make things right. Or somebody said, does Poe Dameron say that? Yeah. And everybody looked at that as a dig. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everybody looked at that as a dig on the prequels. Oh, look, Star Wars is back. They're going to do it right this time.
This will start to make things right. That's right.
That was the first 5 minutes of The Force Awakens. They're going to make things right. Right.
Max Van Sydow, he's going to be an amazing character. Look, he's the next Alec Guinness. He's the next Peter Cushing. He's the next Christopher Lee. He's dead in like 10 minutes. Yeah.
You're so old now.
Curtis says, I would love it if we saw a Plo Koon flashback or even a mention in the Ahsoka show. Hey, don't underestimate Dave Filoni's love for the Plo Koon. And don't even discount the idea that it could be Dave Filoni wearing the Plo Koon costume. He cosplayed as Plo Koon back in the day. You never know.
He reiterated those old stories during the Clone Wars panel. And, that makes sense. Obviously, Plo Koon is somebody who did play a big role in Ahsoka's past. He is the one who brought young Ahsoka to the temple. So
that's right.
You could see a flashback like that. There could be those type of flashbacks in the series because I don't think the creatives can make the assumption that people know who Ahsoka is from the animated series, and they need to be introduced to her properly in her own show by exposing elements of her past via flashbacks. And if that's the case, we'll see Plo Koon actually deliver Ahsoka to the Jedi Temple. That could be very interesting.
That'd be great. All right, and to wrap things up, we got Classic Donut here. Says, fellas, apologies in advance if you already said so, but are any of you going to Japan for Star Wars Celebration 2025? Also, what city do you think deserves a Star Wars celebration? No, I will not be going to Star Wars Celebration Japan. As far as what city deserves it, let's go back to Chicago. I'll just say it so Mac doesn't have to. Let's go back to Chicago.
All right. Well,
I'm there.
Yes, we are not going to attend Star Wars Celebration Japan, unfortunately. But if I was to think about a city that deserves it, I find it hard to believe there hasn't been a Star Wars Celebration New York City yet. And why hasn't there been? My God, put the thing in New York already. Let's go to Manhattan, baby.
I love it. We'll wake up in that city that never sleeps. Speaking of never sleeping, that's right. This is the longest live stream that Rebel Force Radio has done. For those of you keeping score, that's it. All right, I'm looking at Peter. I'm looking at Jeff. What was the time?
Like 3 hours and 18 minutes at this
point. Something like that.
We started a couple minutes late, at least 3:15.
Stamina,
right. Baby, stamina.
Yes. All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here in our convention coverage. Star Wars Celebration London. Really enjoying the live streams. Cannot recommend enough. This is something that Max started doing a long time ago as they started doing these, streaming these things. Celebration doesn't need to be over just because the event is over. No, you can hit play, go on there, watch these 7-hour plus streams that they're doing, that they recorded each day. They're there for you. There's lots of great stuff. You get some of the panels, you get some of the vendor stuff. Some really great merch, by the way. If you're a collector, there were some good announcements. Even if you're a 3 3/4 inch collector like Jimmy Mack, there's some welcomed additions that have been announced. Not enough, I'll say that, not enough on the 3 3/4 line. But you know what? It's something. It's something. And we've got Ahsoka Season 1 in August, August 2023. We've got Andor confirmed for August of 2024. We have Skeleton Crew confirmed by the end of 2023. So I think that'll probably get that holiday slot. That late November, December slot will probably be Skeleton Crew. Acolyte sometime in 2024. They didn't get specific beyond the year, but 4 episodes in the can, according to showrunner Leslie Headland. A lot of fun, a lot of great announcements, and made so much better by hanging out with all of you on the live streams. Thank you all so much for being there for us. Special thanks to Tyler for lining up the calls. Glad we could get through most of them. Not everybody, but we got through most of them, and we got through the super chats. Tyler, I asked you this off the air, and after the discussion and seeing some of the forbidden footage, what was the most exciting thing announced at Star Wars Celebration Europe for you?
I think probably the Ahsoka show, the trailer, especially because it's so close. All the other stuff, you're getting bits and pieces. And I just got to give a shout out to you guys. I think between Friday and today, you gave the best total coverage if you're looking for a capsule of somewhere to just what happened. This was awesome for me because I didn't catch everything. So
thanks, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Tyler's the man.
Tyler is the man. We love Tyler. Thank you so much for all your help. We'll see you in a couple days. Mandalorian, episode 7 for this season. Chapter 26? No, what is it?
23.
23. All right, Ty. Thanks so much, buddy.
See you guys.
Jimmy Mack, it was quite a weekend. A lot of news. What about you? What was the announcement? What was the thing that you saw that, and maybe it was an announcement. What was the thing that you saw coming out of Celebration London that made you super excited, made you glad to be a fan, whatever?
Well, I have to say, I was very thrilled with all the film announcements, all 3 of them. Very much looking forward to all 3 of them. And I am predicting right now, you guys can mark this moment down, we'll see all 3 of those films in the theaters. I really believe that. But, when I think about our history with Dave Filoni and knowing what kind of guy he is and how we've always rooted for him, just the fact that he's been elevated now to somebody at Lucasfilm who can make decisions. Because I feel like there's been so many of the wrong voices at the table making decisions. We have Dave Filoni in there now, who is a good judge of what quality Star Wars is. And I think that's probably the biggest difference between the announcements we're getting now and the announcements we got then. We have the solid foundation of Filoni. The Filoni Foundation, baby. Hashtag Filoni Foundation. And I'm just so happy to see that the vote of confidence they're giving him by giving him a feature film must come out of their evaluation of the Ahsoka show. And they say, look at this guy. He knows his Star Wars. He works well within the hallways of Lucasfilm. He has this legacy that goes back to George Lucas. And he has the Star Wars pedigree that has been forged through years of experience. So by them giving him a movie, that indicates to me that this Ahsoka show must be pretty damn good because he passed the audition and now he's been elevated to film director. And I just love the fact that it's going to bring him huge financial security, him and Anne, to a great couple. We've known them forever. And so I'm really happy for them. So I'd have to say the Filoni film. I've been wanting to see The Mandalorian make the transition to the movie screens probably since season 1. And following the success of the first 2 seasons, I just thought it was a no-brainer. And I'm happy to see that it's going to happen. So Filoni film is my favorite announcement of the weekend.
I agree with you 100%. It's a sentimental sort of moment for us because we go way back with Dave Filoni from the very beginning. There it is, the Wolfpack tattoo, Jimmy Mack showing it off right there. We go way back with Dave Filoni. At the very beginning of the Clone Wars, we were there at Star Wars Star Wars Celebration, when we saw that first glimpse of what was coming with the Clone Wars. And we said, who's this guy in the hat? Who's this guy in the hat? And it wasn't too long that we were chatting with him. Jim, you first met him, I believe, at Star Wars Celebration Japan. And he summoned you. He wanted to talk to you. Wanted to meet this Jimmy Mack guy from the podcast.
Yeah.
And so not only with the Dave Filoni connection, but also with just the fact that it is a culmination film up on the big screen. Mandalorian, Ahsoka, we got Luke Skywalker, Boba Fett, Fennec Shan, all of these great characters that we have gotten to know over the last couple of years. We'll continue to get to know, and we're going to see them up on the big screen. I love it. I think it's a great strategy, and I can't wait. And that was my favorite as well.
Yeah. All right.
That's going to do
lot
it.
to talk about, man. We got the next 5 or 6 years mapped out in front of us.
Just when I thought we were going to retire. And there was...
Don't retire. Are you kidding me?
No,
it's not even on the
of course
radar
not.
right now, son.
Of course not. All right, we'll see you all here back on the Rebel Force Radio YouTube channel for the Mandalorian after show in just a couple of days. That's Wednesday night, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. So if you found us through YouTube, check us out. Go to rebelforceradio.com. That's the website, the source for all things and everything RFR, rebelforceradio.com. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you follow us on all of our socials. Make sure that you subscribe to the RFR YouTube channel, like, and comment on this very video. If you would, please, we'd appreciate it very much. Until then, we'll see you next time. For Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
The Force will be with you, always.